Chapter 2775. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw how anxious she was. Why was she so gullible? It took him several years to woo her, and he even had to teach the bachelors in the team a few moves. Ha! He had done her a lot of harm. He was just trying to tease her. Who knew that she would really think he would do that? His girl had experienced so much darkness in her life. When she was young, her most trusted family member turned out to be the most violent perpetrator. However, deep in her heart, there was still a pure place where flowers were fragrant and birds were chirping. That was why she had such a pure gaze and a sincere heart. Xia Jinyuan, who felt pity for Yi Jian, stretched out his hand and rubbed Yi Jian's head. Look at you. How can a guy like me, who has spent years chasing a girl, pass on his skills to his comrades? No, don't worry. It won't ruin anyone's life. Seeing that he was teasing her again, Yi Jian unceremoniously threw a punch at him. Perhaps it was because he could forget a lot of things when he was with her. The laughing Xia Jinyuan even forgot that he still had some injuries from Li Jinyan's beating. He didn't dodge Yi Jian's punch. Instead, he laughed and opened his arms, wanting to pull her into his embrace. He opened his arms defenselessly, and Yi Jian's punch followed. The dull pain in his chest reminded Xia Jinyuan that he was still injured. The pain made him frown. His muscles, which were hidden under his camouflage uniform, suddenly tightened. Yi Jian didn't notice the expression on his face, but when he threw another punch, he could feel the changes in his body. You're really injured. Where are you hurt? The laughter stopped abruptly. Yi Jian pursed her lips and stared at the man who was frowning. What did you get hurt? Why didn't you mention it? Did you let K7 take a look? Xia Jinyuan, who had a lump in his throat, only smiled without saying a word. He grabbed her hand and placed it on the third rib on his right chest. It's not a serious injury. It's just a minor one. When eldest brother-in-law saw that I'd secretly kissed you, he was so angry that he wanted to vent his anger. Today, he called me up and threw a punch at me without saying anything. Brother-in-law is powerful. How would I dare to offend you? He didn't even fight back the entire time, allowing his brother-in-law's fists to rain down on him like rain. See, he was gloriously injured. He could still grit his teeth and blink as he spoke, squeezing his noble and handsome face out of shape. Yi Jian, who had been worried about her, looked at her and burst out laughing. You deserve to be beaten up by my brother for sneaking a kiss on me. I warned you not to touch me, but you didn't believe me. You even got caught by my big brother. He beat you up. Serves you right. While saying you deserve it, her hands did not stop moving. She pulled his clothes out of his hands, intending to undress him to see how badly he had been beaten. I've seen my big brother's unarmed combat skills. When he fought with the water demon in the team, he easily won against 3 people. Since he wanted to beat you up, I'm afraid he used a lot of strength. Xia Jinyuan did not let her check his wounds. He grabbed her hand and kissed it gently. It's fine. He knew that we would be going abroad in a few days, so he went easy on you. He only used 60% to 70% of his strength. They're all superficial wounds. I'll be fine after 2 to 3 days of rest. Really? She felt that eldest brother-in-law would not let him off so easily. If eldest brother-in-law found out that he had secretly kissed him, he would be beaten to death. Really, if he really injured me, we would be reported to the military and both of us would be criticized. Chapter 2776. Yi Jian did not pull his shirt away again. She rubbed the wound on his second rib, her heart aching for him. She lowered her eyes, her long and thick eyelashes hiding the heartache in her eyes. She asked softly, "Does it hurt a lot? Where else is there?" Yi Jian's exquisite features were perfect from any angle. Her demure demeanor made Xia Jinyuan's eyes even more tender. Her thick eyelashes even cast a small half-arc shadow, gently trembling, revealing a fragile beauty. However, the corners of her mouth were slightly pursed, and that kind of unyielding stubbornness suppressed her fragility. It made people feel that even though she was a girl, she was a tough person who would not easily bow her head. As Xia Jinyuan looked at her, his sexy Adam's apple involuntarily moved a few times. His low voice was like an open bottle of aged red wine, intoxicating. I was hit in several places. The most painful places are my chest and stomach. I couldn't even straighten my back when I walked just now. It was a very deep voice, and there was even a hint of pity in it. If Li Jinyan was present, he would probably beat this guy who was pretending to be pitiful to gain his sister's sympathy again. He would definitely not show any mercy. Yi Qian knew that her brother really did not like it when he touched her. How should she put it? Her brother was a little rigid, and he always kept a distance between men and women. When it was her first time training with his team, even if he needed to drag her out for a private conversation, he would walk to a place where the sentinels could see and then keep a distance of 3 meters away from her. She had no choice but to hold her breath, afraid that his voice would be drowned out by her own breathing. Her rigid brother had seen Captain Xia kiss her with his own eyes. Yi Qian could not help but chuckle softly. Her laughter was very light, as clear as the wind in the morning breeze. Xia Jinyuan knew what she was laughing at. His eyes, as deep as the ocean, darkened slightly. As his gaze moved, there was a dark glint that flashed past. "Help me rub down there. It really hurts down there." It was already filled with a perverted aura. Yi Qian did not react in time. She did not even put her guard up. She immediately rubbed his abdomen. Here, the position of the diaphragm? A little further down. We're still going down? Why did you hit this spot? Caught off guard, Yi Qian moved down again. At this time, her hand was only 3 or 4 centimeters away from his lower abdomen. Colonel Xia's breathing was a little hot. The darkness in his eyes deepened, as if a gust of wind had stirred up the waves. He lowered his eyes to look at the slender body that was leaning against his tall and big body. His Adam's apple moved with the movement of swallowing. Under normal circumstances, his little fox would never do such a thing. She was so shy that she would be embarrassed to touch him through his pants, not to mention reaching her hand into his pants. At this moment, her heart ached for him, so she didn't notice the little thoughts in his heart. She listened to whatever he said, afraid that he would be in pain. In truth, the Demon King's position in the little fox's heart wasn't as high as his. After all, they hadn't known each other for long. Even if they were tied by blood, it would take a while for them to become close. Currently, it was already very, very good. The little fox's willingness to return to the Fu family was the best start. After Yi Qian rubbed his abdomen a few times, his drooping eyes suddenly widened. His hand paused for a few seconds, then he retracted it as if he had been electrocuted. He said in a low voice, embarrassed and annoyed, "Xia Jinyuan, you, what are you thinking in that head of yours?" Chapter 2777. I miss you. Lieutenant Colonel Xia answered honestly without any hesitation. He missed her. Even if she was right in front of him, he still missed her. I think my brother didn't hit you hard enough. He should have hit you until you couldn't get up. It was like a tent. Did she really think that his lower abdomen was hurt by Big Brother? Xia Jinyuan chuckled. He pulled Yi Qian, whose back was facing him, into his arms. Silly girl, I'm a normal man. You're afraid that I'll hurt, so help me rub my chest. If I don't have any reaction, you'll cry in the future. Recalling her previous situation, Xia Jinyuan felt like he was in a dream. At that time, her body wasn't well, and she was in a daze. He couldn't have taken advantage of her and lost his gentlemanly demeanor. He couldn't have ignored his girlfriend's health and done such despicable things. If everything had been perfect, thinking about it now, it was killing him. It hurt even more than when Demon King Li hit him, and it was a burning pain. It's a normal reaction. Why are you so shy? You've only seen its shape through the trousers, but you haven't even seen its posture. Why is your face so red? Li Yanhong thought. Is it? Moving closer to her ear, Lieutenant Colonel Xia's roguish tone was on full display. Are you thinking about the pictures in junior high science class? Then you put yourself in my shoes? In terms of shamelessness, and indecency, Yi Qian felt that she couldn't beat him even if there were 10 of her. She lifted her leg and stomped on the back of his foot. She even rolled it around to vent her anger. If you continue like this, you'll be beaten to death by my brother. Let go. I'm going to ask my brother if he's hurt. Just say that you're hurt. With your personality, I don't believe that you won't fight back when you're hit or scolded. My brother's body must be hurt by you too. Maybe it's even more painful. Let go. Let go of me. Yi Qian twisted her body uneasily. Suddenly, she exerted force on her waist and pushed forward. She used the flexibility of her waist to keep her lower body at a distance from his. This bastard. He was even talking back to him on purpose. Xia Jinyuan felt wronged. He had been standing in the same position the whole time, and Yi Qian had been twisting and turning. In the end, he ended up rubbing against his energetic partner. Don't move, don't move. Let me hold you for a while. Xia Jinyuan sucked in a few breaths of cold air. He tightly held Yi Jian, who could not wait to escape, and did not give her a chance to leave. His breath was scorching hot, and it carried the most primitive impulse of a man as it sprayed into Yi Qian's ears. I'm already 27 years old, baby. It's been 13 years since the first time. The girl I love is moving around on my body. If I don't have the slightest bit of impulse, that would be a big problem. It's a very normal reaction. You'll definitely meet him again in the future. Little fox, you have to try to accept it. You can't just call me a hooligan every time I have a normal reaction, right? How wrong would I be? How wrong will my brothers be? Yi Qian really wanted to cover her ears. She didn't want to listen. She didn't want to listen. She was going crazy. She didn't want to listen at all. What first time? What impulse? What brothers? She didn't understand. She didn't understand. She didn't understand at all. She was going crazy. If she really didn't understand, she wouldn't be so conflicted. It was because she understood that there was an introduction in the junior high school science book that she was so embarrassed. Chapter 2778. She didn't want to hear it, but she couldn't say it out loud. If she did, this guy would be even more shameless. Yi Qian, who already knew her enemy, began to try to appease him. Don't say it, don't say it. I understand. Really, I can understand. I've read some books, and I know the structure of your male body. I also know that you guys are more impulsive than women. Isn't there a saying, men are animals who think with their lower bodies? I really can understand. I wasn't paying attention just now. I was only concerned about whether or not you were hurt by my brother. I forgot that you're a normal man, and your body will change after being touched by me. I'll be more careful next time. I won't let you feel uncomfortable. It's not good for your body if you hold it in for too long. You and I both need to be more careful. Yi Qian, who was embarrassed and flustered, said a lot of things in one go. She only had one goal: leave quickly. This person is so dangerous. Xia Jinyuan looked at the time while she was talking, and then looked at the sky. That's right. The heavenly Duke was very beautiful. The sun had already absorbed the last ray of sunlight into the clouds. The flowing and colorful light had no way of penetrating the clouds. It could only dye the edges of the clouds with golden and purple light. It was a very beautiful sunset scene, but the most beautiful thing was still the girl in his arms. You said so much because you're afraid that I'll do something to you. Little fox, no matter how indiscriminate I am, I can't take advantage of you in the wilderness. Just don't move. Let me hug you. The pain is real. Brother-in-law was really fierce. He even hit my face on purpose. If I didn't react fast enough, you might have seen a bruised and swollen face. It's just the two of us now. Let's just stand there. Don't move. Don't move. Be good. He lowered his head and kissed her ear. When he looked up, he took a few deep breaths in an attempt to suppress all his messy thoughts. He really couldn't let his thoughts run wild. The end result was him being miserable. Colonel Xia shook his head helplessly. He had to endure it. His voice was tense. Although he said nothing would happen, Yi Qian had the keenest intuition as a woman. Her intuition told her that the man hugging her hadn't gotten rid of his thoughts. If possible, he might take the next step. Fortunately, they were in the wilderness. Although he was sometimes naughty, he always maintained his gentlemanly demeanor and wouldn't force her to do anything embarrassing. Based on this alone, Yi Jian trusted him very much. You're too uncomfortable. Why do this? Let me go, Captain Xia. I feel bad for you. Yi Jian relaxed her body. She no longer wanted to run away like a frightened bird. She relaxed her body and leaned back into his arms. She could feel his pain completely. When it came to her, it hurt. His body still had a big reaction, but many distracting thoughts had been removed. Xia Jinyuan smiled and said, "I'll be fine after resting for a while. I don't think I've watched the sunset with you before. Look up, little fox. Look at the sky." Looking at his outstretched arm, Yi Qian's eyes curved into crescents. Beautiful. Nature's scenery was natural and unadorned. Looking at the beautiful scenery could wash away the dust in one's heart. She smiled. With such a beautiful scenery, accompanied by a man who loved her so much, everything in the world became dust. It couldn't compare to the love in his eyes. Chapter 2779. Captain Xia, let's wait until I'm a little older. When we're engaged, we can take our relationship to the next level. Okay? Yi Qian spoke softly. There was a hint of melancholy in her voice. You've waited for me for so long, but I haven't given you the best. Do you blame me for that? In the tranquil scenery, surrounded by green mountains and clear waters, some words came out naturally. Xia Jinyuan laughed. The best thing is for you to stay by my side. Don't think too much. Some things need to happen naturally. I'm very happy that you care about my feelings, but don't feel burdened. When it comes to matters between a man and a woman, I only feel impulsive when I'm with you. After a day of high-intensity training, I'm so tired that my limbs feel like they're separated from my body. How can I have extra energy to think about it? No, not at all. Of course, you can't be wrong when you wake up in the morning. That's a normal reaction. Occasionally, you'll feel a little impulsive. You can run to the bathroom to relieve yourself. You won't really hold it in. This was a private topic between lovers. Although Yi Qian blushed when she heard it, she didn't avoid it. Listen, you have to know. The wind in the mountains was a little chilly. It seemed to blow past the snowy mountains in Tibet, and the chill of ice and snow brushed against their faces. In the mountains of Tibet, there would indeed be heavy snow during this season. However, Yi Qian and the others hadn't completely entered the mountains yet, so they didn't see the snow in summer. They could only feel a trace of coldness. The colorful golden-purple light at the edge of the clouds had gradually faded, indicating that the sky was getting darker. Xia Jinyuan, who was enjoying the cool breeze, calmed down the restlessness in his heart. He quietly leaned against the person in his arms and watched the last ray of the sunset with her. Night came as expected. Yi Qian, who didn't feel any pain, knew that he had calmed down. The pink on her face gradually dispersed. She felt very happy, even if they didn't say a word to each other. My brother hurt you because he felt sorry for me. Don't take it to heart. When the last ray of light disappeared, Yi Qian said softly, Master told me that he didn't have a comfortable life in the Li family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to the southernmost sea to join the army. With old man Li's and my brother's father's influence, it's completely possible for my brother to stay in the capital or join a better army. But he didn't. Like you, he didn't rely on his family. He relied on himself to get to where he is today. He wanted to protect me. He didn't want me to be bullied. You happen to be seen by him. Don't blame him for making a move. He hit you, so you must have hit him back. We're even. In the end, the two of us were just slicing and dicing. We didn't use any brute force. Xia Jinyuan gently pressed his chin against the side of Yi Qian's head. He chuckled softly and said, Later, you'll have to worry about the Devil King. I'm sure there are a few places on his body that are hurting from my beatings. He was tall. At 1.8 meters, he was almost 20 meters taller than Yi Qian, who was 1.6 meters tall. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist. When he held Yi Qian in his arms, he arched his back slightly as he spoke. From the back, it looked like he was completely protecting her under his wings. In the past, although the Devil King and I admired each other, there was a strong sense of distance between us. It's probably because two tigers can't live on the same mountain. When we're together, there will always be a secret competition. Now that I have you, I feel that the Devil King is actually giving in to me. He directly gave me the authority to arrange several training sessions. Chapter 2780. Xia Jinyuan's eyes darkened as he gazed at the twinkling stars in the sky. They were as bright as the eyes of the person in his arms. When the time comes, You can mention it to the Demon King. There's no need for that. He's the leader of the Storm Triforce. I'm the leader of the Snow Region Special Forces. We both have our own sovereignty. There's no need for him to take a step back because of me. I realize that the Demon King is very sentimental. The Demon King also lost control the night he punished you. It's not a big problem, but it can't work. There has to be a difference. When I punished you, he was very upset. I told him that we were able to go together. Today, it was my cruelty, your persistence. He only reacted after I said it. If it wasn't you who was punished that day, but another comrade, the Demon King would not have lost his composure. You can talk to him. You're his sister. It'll be more effective than me. If I talk to him because he was angry because you were punished, it'll seem like I'm trying to shirk responsibility. The Demon King already has a small opinion of him because of Little Fox's punishment. It wouldn't be appropriate to talk to him about it. It would seem like he was looking for an excuse for himself. Yi Qian nodded. Okay, I'll talk to my brother. He's not a petty person. After I explain it to him, he won't have any opinions about you. As for you saying that he values family, that's because Yi Qian, who was leaning on him, paused for a moment. After a moment of silence, he said softly, because my brother's family isn't very peaceful. Why was her brother the closest relative to her grandfather in the future? Because although her brother had many relatives with the surname Li, they were all heartless. When her aunt married into the Li family, it was also because she liked her uncle. Like her brother didn't have any family ties. That was why he valued family ties so much. The Li family was one of the most influential families in Huangsheng, and they were also warlords. Xia Jinyuan knew a little about the Li family's past. Hearing this, he nodded and said to Yi Qian earnestly, Little Fox, you have to communicate more with your family when you go back. Tell them more about yourself. Don't let them know nothing about your past. Originally, the Fu family did not know anything about your existence. Now that you are back, you did not mention a word about your past to them. You have good intentions. You don't want your family to be sad because of your past. Actually, you're wrong, Little Fox. What have you been through in the past? Good or bad, they all want to know. They want to understand you. They want to get close to your heart. They want to treat you well and make up for all the kinship you didn't have in the past. Then, you won't say anything. Little Fox, put yourself in their shoes. Don't you think that such self-righteous kindness is a little cold? The dark sky was very suitable for talking about topics that people deeply wanted to reject. The darkness of a night could hide everyone's expressions. It could make people feel a sense of security, even if they were seen through. At the same time, it could make people let down their guard and open their hearts to others. The reason Yi Qian didn't want to talk about was pointed out by Xia Jinyuan. Her expression became a little serious. How can I be cold? I'm just afraid that they will worry. She sighed softly and had to admit that Xia Jinyuan's words made sense. I'm afraid that they will worry too much about me. I'm also afraid that they will find out about my past and feel depressed. Chapter 2781. Upon hearing this, Yi Qian could tell that he was worried that she would not be able to integrate into the Fu family and get along well with Big Brother. Therefore, he found an excuse for her to interact more with Big Brother. What did he mean by saying that it was inconvenient for him to talk to Big Brother? It was not inconvenient at all. He just wanted her to interact more with Big Brother. This man always used his subtle way to pave the way for her, guiding her on how to walk and how to avoid more detours. Yi Qian's heart was as soft as water as she stroked his slender hands around her waist. She said gently, Captain Xia, don't worry too much about me. I know what to do. My brother treats me very well. My father and grandfather are even more so. They can't wait to give me their all to make it up to me. Although I'm slow to warm up, I can feel their love for me. Don't worry. It wasn't easy for me to find my family. I have relatives who love me. I won't be so heartless as to squander away their kindness. Family members also need you to be good to me, and I to be good to you. Otherwise, as time goes by, the family will be worn away. I understand. Don't worry. When I go back, I'll mention the past to my brother and father. Grandfather is old. I'm afraid that he won't be able to take it. Her cautious manner made Xia Jinyuan's heart ache. It was because it was too difficult to get him so she was so careful. She was afraid that the family she had painstakingly found would be hurt. His girl was sometimes as fragile as a bubble that would disappear from his eyes with a gentle poke. Xia Jinyuan's heart ached. He kissed the top of her head and gave her the most reliable idea. Okay, you can talk to old master about the bullying at school and let him know how close you are. Yi Qian said obediently. Okay, I'll talk to my brother during the next few days. After the fight, you stood on the hill together. What did you talk about? I saw the two of you looking down a few times, as if you had a lot on your mind. We talked about some heavy topics, and our hearts felt heavy. We also talked about our marriage. I said that no matter what, we would come back alive to see each other. We would try our best not to sacrifice ourselves and try our best to hold hands until our hair turned white. The two of them chatted for a while and then sat down side by side. Yi Qian rested his head on his shoulder and listened to his low voice. He gazed at the stars that had appeared out of nowhere and whispered to each other, enjoying their quiet time together. At 7:30, 2 helicopters arrived on time. These helicopters were not sent by the Forest Armed Police, but 2 helicopters directly transferred from the Army. The elevator was lowered, and the group of 15 people boarded the plane at the fastest speed. When they boarded the plane, Yi Qian found out that the people who picked them up were all comrades she knew from military. When she heard "Good evening, babies" from her earpiece, she clearly felt the comrade sitting next to her tremble. Shut up, J5. The pilot of the helicopter was the J5 from the military. He did not participate in the training and would not go abroad to participate in the competition. Instead, he flew the interceptor to the border of the Tibetan area to cooperate with the military patrol team. No one could stand him calling them babies. Even Yi Qian got goosebumps when he said that. Ha ha ha. Sorry, I've been speaking in English every day. My tongue is still curled up. Please forgive me. Chapter 2782. J5 laughed heartily and cooperated with his comrade from the northwest, codenamed E6, who was piloting the helicopter, to make a perfect U-turn and bring his comrades back to the military. The interceptor is coming to an end this year. The fighter planes that we flew over the desert last time are all in place. This time I'm piloting this big guy. It's probably the last time I'll be in close contact with it. From now on, we'll all be using fighter planes. The interceptor will be out of our country's military history. J5 in the co-pilot seat began to talk about his mission this time. It was not a secret, and everyone knew about it. Just thinking about it makes me a little sad. The first time I flew an interceptor, who knew it would be out of history so soon and become a thing of the past? Interceptors were military planes that were specifically used to intercept enemy bombers, reconnaissance planes, or cruise missiles. Its mission was mainly to protect important towns, strategic locations, and transportation hubs from air attacks. This time, there was a strange situation in the high zone. J5 and E6 were escorting the high zone's aviation regiment. When the airborne radar intercepted the guy in our country's air, the two of them immediately dived down and rushed directly to the side of the opponent's wing. The opponent was probably still complacent, thinking that he had not been discovered. However, our country's interceptor flew directly at him in a menacing manner. The pilot was so scared that he immediately lowered the plane and dived again. The tail of the plane was spewing black smoke as he hurried back to his country. We didn't chase after him. After we scared him away, we patrolled with our brothers from the aviation regiment and then flew back. After we got off the plane, we found out that thing had F*King flown to the border of our country. In the end, there was a crash. The plane was gone, and so were the people. It was time to settle the score. They didn't know their own technology, yet they still engaged in aerial reconnaissance. F*CK, when something happened, they blamed it on our country. They even sent a diplomat to make a statement. J5's voice was cold and gloomy. What the F*CK? How shameless. They did something wrong, yet they're still calling the thief to catch the thief. It's in line with the usual practice of their country. At this point, everyone's face turned cold. They only dared to do this because they thought our country was easy to bully. Every time they heard something like this, as soldiers, they would be the angriest. What happened after that? Xia Jinyuan asked. J6 snorted softly and laughed. Later on, we sent their radar tracks directly to them. Good Lord, they immediately shrunk back into their shells and stopped making a sound. They even came to their country to publish an article. It's probably just to compete with a group of rude barbarians. They couldn't find a place overseas and lost face. In order to keep the people in line, they were afraid that the people wouldn't know that they were incompetent. So, they quickly found such an excuse. What a joke. Our country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is also amazing. They directly released a news report about this country's invasion of our aviation territory. They directly pointed out that if you want to regain your face, you must first have something to show for it. Relying on reports alone is just like the emperor's new clothes. It's just self-deception. The counterattack of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs made the gloomy J5 a bit cheerful. He suddenly said, Qing Niao, you know the diplomat who just spoke. He's Qin Xiao. He's young, powerful, and quite talented. After saying that, J5 suddenly realized something. He raised his hand and patted the corner of his mouth lightly. Why did he mention Qin Xiao in front of Q King? Wasn't he just making things difficult for Q King? Chapter 2783. Yi Qian, who had no idea that Qin Xiao was interested in him, smiled and said, That's indeed his style of speaking. He's sharp and can stand firm in every situation. He's indeed very impressive. She didn't hide her admiration for Qin Xiao, not even in front of Xia Jinyuan. Because it was purely her admiration and admiration, there was no need to hide it. After that, there was no reply from them. They're probably cursing us in their hearts again. J5 quickly changed the topic back to the plane crash in a certain country. We really didn't think of scaring them. They were so scared that they even changed their radar and crashed into a mountain. They came here alive, but they didn't come back alive. What a pity. It wasn't until now that Xia Jinyuan opened his mouth to say a second sentence. They're not good at learning, and they're delusional enough to provoke others. Even when they crashed in battle, they still respected them for being a man. Even when they tried to escape, they crashed. A pilot with such poor mental fortitude is also a warning to this country. As a commander, Xia Jinyuan was very far-sighted. For him, the plane crash was another reminder for other countries to be more vigilant. He had to secretly improve the mental fortitude of every pilot. In our country, pilots with poor mental fortitude can't become pilots at all. Out of the nearly 900 tests, they'll be eliminated if they can't pass 10 tests. Their country also sent a special force this time. Be careful when the time comes, J5 reminded. The parent of caution is the parent of caution. Don't be afraid of open attacks, but be afraid of underhanded ones. After such an incident, there might be more trouble during the competition. It was always better to be careful. Although the other party crashed and lost face in the end, the soldiers who hurt weren't very happy. Even if they won in a war of words, it would only be a temporary victory. And the real victory would be like the U.S., where military strength was used to speak. Who would dare to provoke them? They were courting death. They would directly send troops to open fire. Round after round of artillery shells from land, sea, and air. But our country hasn't reached such a level of military strength yet. So far, we haven't really bared our fangs and directly bombarded the countries that provoked our country. The safest way is to use diplomats and the military to state our country's position. We'll say that our country is not afraid of anything and only works for world peace. This was currently a way to preserve and secretly develop the country. If a war really broke out, it would not be a good thing. When the time comes, if they really play dirty, we'll just return the favor. Xia Jinyuan, who had already closed his eyes to rest, said in a cold voice through the earpiece, We will return the favor in the same way that they came. Courtesy demands reciprocity, the demeanor of a great country. Yi Qian turned her head sideways and glanced at the man sitting beside her under the dim light in the cabin. His eyes were handsome, sharp, and reserved. Even with his eyes closed, he was a lion that was not to be trifled with. He looked lazy, but in fact, even when he was sleeping, he was extremely lethal. With him and soldiers like him protecting the country, with Dad and other engineers like Dad working hard to improve the country's military strength and not returning home all year round, why should our country worry about not being strong? At least, when she was reborn, she still knew that many foreign countries had borrowed a lot of money from our country. She also knew about new weapons, stealth fighter jets, and a series of main offensive weapons that were all equipped with the sea, land, and air forces. In another 15 years, our country's national strength would definitely not be what it is now. Chapter 2784. Yiqian thought to himself with his eyes closed. At the same time, he was certain that this wasn't just a dream. He was truly reborn. Otherwise, how would she know that our country would still have an aircraft carrier 10 years later? The helicopter refueled on the way, so it was already 3 in the morning by the time it arrived at the military airport. Everyone rested in the dormitory at the military airport and departed at 7 in the morning the next day. They took the military jeep to the military headquarters. The military headquarters was the same as before. Before they even got close, the solemnity that greeted them made them nervous. Every soldier who was about to enter the military headquarters would slow down their steps and subconsciously tidy their clothes. They would gently turn their military cap that was already properly worn to the left and right before putting it back on with a straight face. Solemn, breath-holding, back straight. This was the feeling Qin Xiu got every time he arrived at the military headquarters. Even though he wasn't a soldier, he couldn't help but keep up with the soldier's pace. Even his behavior became exceptionally proper. Little Qin, after you're done with the military headquarters, you still have to go to the General Administration office. I heard that you have a lot of things to attend to in the afternoon. How about this? I'll have my daughter send the documents from the General Administration office to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You should hurry up and finish your work so that you can get off work early and spend time with Mrs. Qin. The Deputy Chief of Staff Du, who was waiting for the elevator with them, smiled gently and said to Qin Xiu, "Work is important, but so is family. Mrs. Qin chatted with my wife last time and said that she hasn't seen you in 2 months. It's good that you're working hard, but you should also spend time with your family. Family is important too, so you can't be biased." Beside him stood Du Jiai, whose delicate face was pink and fair, as if she had the most beautiful rouge on her face. When she heard her father's words, Du Jiai felt as if a deer had entered her heart and was happily bumping into her. She felt confused and sweet at the same time. In order to confirm her relationship with Qin Xiu, she specially transferred back to the General Administration office. From then on, she would stay in Beijing so that she could spend more time with Qin Xiu. As a girl, Du Jiai smiled and said, "Dad, how can you casually interfere with other people's work? You're not in the same department, and you're not Brother Qin Xiu's superior. Why do you have to arrange Brother Qin Xiu's work?" She then said to Qin Xiu, who was tall and slender even though he wasn't wearing a military uniform, "Brother Qin Xiu, don't mind my dad. His old habit of ordering people. Go do your work. Don't pay attention to him." The elevator had already started counting down. Since they had reached the first floor, Qin Xiu smiled and said politely, "Thank you, Deputy Chief of Staff Du, for your concern. I just sent a text message to my colleague in the car. I'll have my colleague retrieve the documents from the General Administration office. There's no need to trouble you." Miss Du, his politeness made Du Jiai's eyes darken a bit. She didn't act like a spoiled little girl, so she glared at Deputy Chief of Staff Du and said reproachfully, "Dad, I told you not to make any arrangements. Brother Qin Xiu knows what he's doing." The natural and unrestrained Du Jiai not only won back some face for herself, but also her father's. Qin Xiu, on the other hand, was as indifferent and distant as usual. Even though there was a smile in his eyes and mouth, Du Jiai could faintly feel the aloofness from him. The man she had a crush on wasn't interested in her at all. Mrs. Qin even said that he admired generous and independent girls. Looking at his expression, did it look like admiration? It didn't look like it at all. A strong sense of defeat hit her in the face. Du Jiai couldn't help but gently bite her lower lip. Chapter 2785. No, it couldn't be like this. It wasn't easy for them to get to know each other and be together with him. She must seize the opportunity. She could also observe what kind of girl he liked. All along, no man had caught her eye. Those seemingly gentle men had a different face in private. They had a hypocritical appearance, so they were elegant. Just looking at them made her feel disgusted. She had seen too many men like this since she was a child. For those who wanted to climb the social ladder, like Sun Ying, it didn't matter what kind of face these men had in private. They were interested in the money in the man's hands and the family behind the man. As for his character, TSK, it was not within their scope of consideration. Du Jia lowered her eyes slightly with a cold gaze. The elevator had arrived. She suddenly raised her hand and pulled her father without a trace. As the elevator landed with a ding, the doors opened. Qin Xiu took a small step back and wanted to invite the father and daughter in first. Du Jia said with a smile, "Brother Qin Xiu, you have something urgent. You go first. This elevator is here. I'll take this elevator with my father." As she spoke, she winked playfully. "I have to keep an eye on my father. I can't let him cause you trouble. I don't want him to think that you're his soldier." Qin Xiu didn't refuse, nor was he interested in her behavior. Hearing this, his elegant and handsome face was still smiling slightly. "Deputy Chief of Staff Du, then I'll go first. Goodbye." Go ahead. Not bad, you're motivated. Our country needs people like you who are motivated and capable." The official-sounding Deputy Chief of Staff, Du, didn't seem to mind at all. He happily praised the capable young diplomat in front of him. Two soldiers with folders in their hands walked out. The two of them were talking in low voices, discussing something seriously. Standing by the side, Deputy Chief of Staff Du watched Qin Xiu enter the elevator with an amiable gaze. When the elevator doors slowly closed, leaving only a small gap, Du Jia seriously criticized her father. "Dad, why do you always like to be like this? If you continue to be like this, I won't play with you anymore. Brother Qin Xiu can arrange his own affairs. What are you doing? You're overstepping your authority." "Io, so you know that you've overstepped your authority? Then aren't you overstepping your authority by trying to control me?" No, it should be called impudent. That's not it. We're just promoting a harmonious interaction between father and daughter." The elevator goes up. Qin Xiu can vaguely hear the conversation between the father and daughter outside. The red ascending arrow flashes, and he can only hear the joyful laughter of the female soldiers outside. Walking into the elevator, Qin Xiu's smile disappeared, and his expression was indifferent. Where was the gentle and reserved smile from just now? Even the aura around him has become exceptionally cold. Du Jia also stopped smiling. Her gaze focused on the rising number of the elevator, and the corners of her mouth were pressed tightly. "Jia, it's not easy to win over the young master of the Qin family. Look at him. He hasn't looked at you directly from beginning to end. Every time he looks at you, it's out of courtesy. Other than that, he doesn't look at you at all. Your mother is trying to build a bridge for you to fulfill your wish. Dad also admits that the young master of the Qin family is indeed talented. He can be said to be a dragon among men. He's a good choice for a son-in-law. But he doesn't have you in his eyes." Deputy Chief of Staff Du sighed softly. In his eyes, his daughter is the most outstanding. An outstanding daughter deserves a good son-in-law who can see the good in her and not Qin Xiu, who doesn't have his daughter in his eyes. Chapter 2786. A man who didn't care about his daughter, no matter how outstanding, talented, or capable he was not the best choice. Du Jia had never let the things she liked slip through her fingers since she was a child. No matter how difficult it was to get them, she would always think of a way to get them. In the end, she would get what she wanted. She liked Qin Xiu. She liked him so much that she was crazy about him. The first time she saw this man, he was elegant and graceful. His every movement exuded a natural, noble temperament. He was neither strong nor weak. When he smiled, he was like a spring breeze. When he was deep in thought, he was as deep as the sea. At first glance, she knew that he was her, Du Jia's man. Just because he doesn't care about me now doesn't mean that he won't care about me in the future. "Dad, Your daughter is so cute and outstanding. How can anyone be so blind that they don't care about me? Du Jiai, whose lips were slightly pressed, smiled again. Qin Xiu is different from other men. The Qin family is an aristocratic family with a big business. Everyone in the family is from a famous family. Qin Xiu was born in such a family. What kind of woman hasn't he seen? Fat and thin, arrogant, gentle, pretty daughter of a humble family, passionate like fire. He has seen them all. Because he has seen too many, his heart is cold and hard, and he won't be easily shaken. This is called having a firm mind. He won't be easily confused by wildflowers. Dad, are you not satisfied with Qin Xiu? Du Jai walked into the elevator with the deputy chief of staff. Du Shi pouted and shook her father's arm in dissatisfaction. How can you not be satisfied with Qin Xiu? He's so capable. Just some time ago, when a plane crashed in another country, Qin Xiu stood in front of the news release stage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and fought back very well. Look, he wasn't afraid at all. He was very calm and very sharp when answering the tricky questions of the reporters. Dad, how can you not be satisfied with such an outstanding Qin Xiu? The deputy chief of staff Du, whose arm hurt from the shaking, had a helpless look on his face. Seeing his daughter's outward appearance, he could not help but laugh. Everyone says that daughters are always outward. Look at you, look at you. You let your father dote on you for more than 20 years for nothing. She hasn't even married yet, but her heart has already flown away. Aren't you worried that Dad will be upset? Don't worry, don't worry. Dad knows that his daughter married well, so he won't worry. He'll only be happy and gratified. At that time, he could proudly tell his old comrades, come, come, come. I'll show you the son-in-law my daughter found for me. How about that? Isn't it good? At that time, you will be so happy. Madame Li gave birth to 2 sons and 2 daughters. Why did the couple like their youngest daughter, Du Jai, the most? It was because she had a glib tongue that could make the couple happy. At this moment, the happy deputy chief of staff, Du, burst into laughter. You're so smart. Qin Xiu. He deliberately paused, as if he was going to say something bad about Qin Xiu. When Du Jai saw this, she pretended to be anxious. Don't say anything bad about Qin Xiu. You have to say something good. Haha, okay. Okay, Dad will say something good. I'll say something good that a smart girl like you likes to hear. Qin Xiu is indeed very capable, and he is also very clean. Looking around the city, there are not many men who are as outstanding as him in all aspects. You have good taste. I haven't seen you like this or that in all these years. Since you were a child, you always knew that you should have the best. Since you were a child, you would rather have nothing than have something substandard. This makes your mother and I feel very relieved. Chapter 2787. The deputy chief of staff, Du, had always been very satisfied with their youngest daughter. Ever since she was a child, the couple had never worried about her. When they were in junior high school, the wife accidentally saw a torn love letter in the trash can in her daughter's study. She was afraid that her daughter would fall in love behind her parents' back, so she found an opportunity to chat with her daughter. Who would have thought that her daughter, who was only 13 years old at the time, had a look of disdain and sneered, "Mom, you're looking down on me too much. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and they're just toads trying to eat swan meat. How could I possibly fall for them?" Little grandma said that a woman should have self-respect. Only by having self-respect can she find the best man in the world to be her husband. I won't fall in love at school and be taken advantage of by those little boys. I want to find the best, most outstanding boyfriend. I want him to be my husband, just like Dad. When Mom finds Dad, she'll find the best man in the world to be her husband. At that time, the couple had been shocked, but they were also amused by her childish words and laughed heartily. Since then, no matter how late their daughter came home, which classmates she went out to play with, or what was in her bag, the couple had never asked. Their daughter knew what her goals were and what she wanted to do. Just like now, she only had eyes for Qin Xiu, and Qin Xiu was indeed a good man. The deputy chief of staff Du smiled and said, "Since you've taken a fancy to Qin Xiu, and Mrs. Qin also wants to match you with him, with the support of the adults, you and Qin Xiu can be considered half successful. Dad won't stop you, and I also hope that he can become your husband. My daughter is so outstanding, and only a man like Qin Xiu is worthy of my daughter. Go and get along well with him. Dad will wait for your good news." The deputy chief of staff, Du, was naturally very satisfied with Qin Xiu. His Du family's ancestors have been poor farmers for 3 generations, and they weren't a rich family. If his daughter married into Qin Xiu's family, it would be because the Du family's ancestors had accumulated good karma for their daughter to marry into a real rich family. Du Jai raised her eyebrows confidently. "Don't worry, Dad. There's nothing your daughter can't handle. And with Aunt Qin's support, I will definitely be together with brother Qin Xiu, so that you can benefit from being a son-in-law one day." TSK. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Taking advantage of your son-in-law? Why don't you say that your daughter and son-in-law are taking advantage of your father? No, we want to earn our own living. We don't want to rely on the Lord. All right, Dad, we're here. Don't say anything else, lest he hears you. I'm now the one who's chasing after Qin Xiu. If others find out, I'll lose face. You're not allowed to mention anything about this outside. Do you hear me? In the face of his daughter's warning, the deputy chief of staff didn't stop laughing. His daughter was very good. If Qin Xiu married his daughter, she would definitely be a good helper by his side. His career would definitely rise steadily, and everything would go smoothly. However, Qin Xiu's heart didn't waver at all. He hadn't seen all kinds of fat and thin women like Du Jai said. When he was a student, his studies were very important, and after he started working, he had a lot of work. He didn't have the time to look at fat and thin women. Even if he did, it was because Mrs. Qin forced him to. As soon as he walked out of the military headquarters, his phone's signal was automatically blocked. Qin Xiu opened it and glanced at it. 2 of the messages were from Mrs. Qin, and 1 was from colleague. He first opened the message from his colleague, telling him that he had gone to the headquarters to retrieve the documents and put them in his office. Chapter 2788. As for Mrs. Qin's text, Qin Xiu's brows furrowed slightly. His finger hovered over the button for a few seconds before he opened it. One text asked when he would be back. The other instructed him to go to the Du residence early and pick up the daughter of the deputy chief of staff. She also told him that this was a gentleman's action and that he couldn't refuse. Going to someone else's house personally to pick up a woman and bring her home was considered a gentleman's action? Qin Xiu's eyes darkened. He deleted the text and didn't take it to heart. He called Mr. Qin and told him that he would pick up Grandpa and Grandma at Dangwei Garden later. A few young soldiers in military uniforms walked out from the other side of the military headquarters. They were all tall and bulky, which made the soldier walking in the middle look even more slender and eye-catching. "That's good. I don't have time here. I'm worried about sending a driver to pick them up. I'll be more at ease if you pick them up." Mr. Qin's serious voice came from the phone. Qin Xiu looked at the slender figure and said, "Okay, I got it. You go ahead." The slender figure turned a corner and walked out of his sight in the blink of an eye. Qin Xiu didn't even hang up and immediately chased after her. Yi Qian. That slender figure was Yi Qian. He hadn't seen her for half a year. He originally wanted to go to school to look for her, but he didn't expect that she would be so busy that she didn't even have time to rest. Now he ran into her at the military headquarters. Did she have something to do there during the summer break? He was familiar with 2 of the soldiers beside her. They were Commander-in-Chief Xia's son, Xia Jinyuan. The other was Brigade Commander Han's son, Han Jing. They both knew each other, but they were just acquaintances. Qin Xiu strode forward and saw Yi Qian talking to the young soldiers. He couldn't help but stop in his tracks and didn't walk over. "We're not going shopping. We're all grown men. I'm going back to sleep. You 3 go back early. Remember to come back at 9 tomorrow morning. Major General Yang will be back tomorrow morning. You can't be late." A few of his comrades stood beside the 2 jeeps, and they still had to say a few words before boarding the jeeps. Xia Jinyuan walked alone and said with a smile, "Then the 5 of you can go back and rest. The 2 of them will go together, while I will go alone. I'll be back before 9 tomorrow morning." Han Jing, who was texting with his head lowered, stopped texting when he heard that he was included in the team. He immediately said, "Don't drag me in. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'm going back to the team tomorrow morning like the three of them. I just texted my mom. I want to go home. I want to eat the delicious food at home. Why don't the four of you come to my house? If you can stay, each of you will have a room. I won't let you sleep in the same bed. I won't stop you from going home, but you'd better behave yourself. Don't contact your old friends as soon as you come out. If I find out, I'll skin you alive. Xia Jinyuan glanced coldly at Han Zheng, who was also planning to go home. They had been friends for many years, so he knew best what kind of person his best friend was. F***CK, do you think I'm a cow? How can I still have the strength after plowing for several months? I need to go back and nourish my body. After tonight, I'll return to the team tomorrow. Han Zheng answered very seriously. He was so serious that his comrades pretended not to hear him. Instead, they all laughed out loud. They were very suspicious of the credibility of his words. Han Zheng touched his nose and felt a little hurt. Then let's go about our own business. I'll go back with Yi Qian first. Li Jinyan, who finally confirmed that he could bring his sister back to Dangui Garden, smiled coldly. See you tomorrow. Chapter 2789. He reached out to shake Xia Jinyuan's hand and bid him farewell. Xia Jinyuan reached out his hand and said helplessly, "It's too obvious that you're chasing me away. What else can I do? Take you with me?" Li Jinyan replied calmly. "You can't take me with you this time, but take me with you next time. How about that?" "No, I don't really want to be in the same car as you. It's okay, I can drive myself. I know the way, so you don't have to worry about me getting lost." Lieutenant Colonel Xia continued smoothly, and he was speaking to Yi Qian. "I still have a few words to say to you in private. We can't let them hear us." Li Jinyan's smile faded and his expression turned cold again. He said to Yi Qian, "Let's go home first. It's getting late. If you have anything to say, you can say it tomorrow." The two of them went back and forth, and Yi Qian wanted to laugh. It was an embarrassing and childish conversation, but the two people involved had no self-awareness at all. "I'll talk to him for a while. I'll be back soon." Yi Qian stood beside her boyfriend and looked at her pitifully for a long time. He really couldn't bear to reject her. Since his sister agreed, her brother naturally couldn't force her. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll give him 3 minutes." 3 minutes. He still wanted 30 minutes. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who was being restricted by his brother-in-law, felt wronged. He bent down slightly and said to Yi Qian, "Fortunately, you helped me. My heart is comforted." Just as Xia Jinyuan bent down slightly to talk to Yi Qian, Qin Xiu, who had been waiting with a smile, suddenly narrowed his eyes. His mind suddenly flashed back to that rainy morning when he returned from Lingguo. He wanted to give her an umbrella, but he saw her trotting all the way. She couldn't wait to throw herself into the arms of a man in military uniform like a swallow returning to the forest. At that time, the rain was so heavy that it formed a line. He was far away and couldn't see the man's face clearly. He only knew that it was a tall and slender man whose military aura wasn't hidden by the heavy rain. The tall and straight figure in the rain suddenly overlapped with Xia Jinyuan's figure. Almost exactly. Qin Xiu's hands suddenly clenched. However, when he saw the two of them politely shaking hands, Qin Xiu wondered if he was overthinking it. At that moment, the person standing beside Yi Qian wasn't Xia Jinyuan. It was Old Master Li's grandson, Li Jinyan. They were standing far apart. He remembered that Li Jinyan didn't like to interact with people. Back then, when the old master had returned to Dingui Garden, he and his grandparents had visited him. When the old master introduced his grandson, Li Jinyan, the two of them had politely shook hands. Li Jinyan had quickly retracted his hand. From this, he could tell that he was a man who always kept a distance from others. But now he was standing very close to Yi Jian. Their shoulders had bumped into each other several times. Not only was he not angry, but his cold face, which was teased by the old man as having a sculpted face, actually had a faint smile on it. 3 minutes wasn't enough time to walk. Xia Jinyuan didn't step aside to talk to Yi Qian. Instead, he said, "Let's talk about it tomorrow. 3 minutes isn't enough. Call me when you get back." In the military, where there were surveillance cameras everywhere, he still kept a certain distance from Yi Qian. They looked close, but the distance was far enough that no one would notice anything. Qin Xiu saw this and thought that he was overthinking it. "Brother Qin Xiu?" A woman's playful voice came from behind. Qin Xiu's face darkened. The woman who was talking to him quickly walked up to him. She smiled. "It's really you. Why? Are you waiting for the bus? Do you want to go together? My dad said he needed to go to East Huan for some business. He needs to pass by your building." Chapter 2790. She was a woman full of aggression, but she thought she was very polite and could take care of other people's emotions. In Qin Xiu's mind, Du Jia was full of hidden offensive power from head to toe. Her sweet smile with a hint of playfulness was just right to conceal the exuberant ambition in the depths of her eyes. No matter how well she hid it, it was useless. Although he didn't interact with women before, her gaze was enough to make him want to stay 1,000 miles away. Even talking was tiring. It was too tiring to hide too much. In order to be perfect, it was too boring to always hide your true feelings at all times. She was far inferior to the girl who walked into his heart. Even if she was ruthless, she had to be honest. Qin Xiu's eyes were a little cold. When he heard Du Jia teasing herself and a little serious, she smiled and said, "Oh my God, Qin Xiu, don't tell me you don't know who I am now. We met an hour ago. We even had a meal together last month. Last month, you came to my house with Aunt Qin as a guest. Qin Xiu, if you say you don't know me, I'll be really sad. I know I look average, but at least I'm a little bit delicate and pretty. I don't have an ordinary face that you forget when you turn around." She was very good at teasing herself. There was an indescribable straightforwardness. With appropriate expressions and appropriate humor, it was easy for people to remember her face and her person. One liked to steal the limelight and control the whole situation by herself. Everyone's attention was focused on her, and then they would listen to her and do things according to her requests. The silent Qin Xiu had already analyzed the woman in front of him from head to toe. Gradually, the polite smile in Qin Xiu's eyes disappeared. Was this the best daughter-in-law his mother thought? When did Mrs. Qin, who was born in a prestigious family and received an orthodox aristocratic education, have such poor taste? She couldn't even see the ambition in a little girl, the daughter of the deputy chief of staff Du. That year, he had followed the art troupe into Tibet as a reporter and encountered an avalanche midway. This Miss Du was quite powerful throughout the entire journey. Her aggressive tone and cold attitude had greatly broadened his horizons. If he hadn't known her for a long time, he probably would have been like Mrs. Qin and really thought that the daughter of the deputy chief of staff Du was a good person. Qin Xiu's gaze was cold as he looked at Du Jia, who had appeared before him. He nodded lightly. "Miss Du, it turns out that Brother Qin Xiu knows me. I was feeling a little embarrassed just now." Du Jia patted her chest as if she had just survived a disaster. She let out a long sigh and said, "I was really afraid that you would say that you don't know me. Since you know me, Brother Qin Xiu, you always call me Miss Du, but I always call you Brother Qin Xiu." "I'm a little embarrassed." Du Jia blinked lightly and asked tentatively in a negotiating tone, "Brother Qin Xiu, how about you call me Du Jia? Du Jia is better than Miss Du. It won't cause a misunderstanding, and it won't make me feel too embarrassed." That year, Qin Xiu deliberately lowered his voice and wore a lot of clothes. Even now, Du Jia didn't recognize that the Qin Xiu in front of her was the reporter Qin, who had entered Tibet with her. She happened to be standing in front of Qin Xiu, blocking him from the best angle where he could see the front. Qin Xiu, who was worried that Yi Jian would get in the car and leave, looked up and glanced in the front. His heart sank slightly. She was indeed getting in the car and leaving. Chapter 2791. Seeing that Yi Qian was about to get into the car, Qin Xiu, who was not in the mood to socialize, looked at her coldly. Out of courtesy, he said calmly, "Miss Du, is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I need to say hello to my friend. I've been waiting for him all this time. But you suddenly rushed out and arranged to get into the car on your own accord. You even talked to yourself for a long time like a wronged host." With Qin Xiu's self-restraint, he naturally would not say these words out loud. But what he said just now already had a layer of meaning behind it. It just sounded elegant and did not make people feel embarrassed. Du Jiayi was a smart person. How could she not understand the deeper meaning behind Qin Xiu's words? Her expression froze, and her smile was especially forced. But she did not let herself lose her composure for too long. After a few seconds, she adjusted her expression and apologized profusely. "I'm sorry, Qin Xiu. I didn't pay attention just now. I thought you were waiting for the car." She saw that Qin Xiu's gaze was focused on the road ahead over her shoulder. She quickly turned around and looked in that direction as well. She apologized. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Yi Qian had already gotten into the car. Du Jiayi, who turned around, only saw the straight military green trousers and the shiny black female soldier leather shoes. But she recognized the dark green figure who escorted the female soldier into the car and carefully covered the female soldier's head to prevent her from hitting her head. Li Jinyan. It was actually Li Jinyan. Du Jiayi's eyes darkened. She actually saw Li Jinyan get into the car with a female soldier in the military headquarters. Li Jinyan, who was not close to anyone and was a loner to the point of giving her grandfather a headache, was actually traveling with a female soldier? Did she discover a big secret? Then, this secret made Du Jiayi's face darken again. Her eyebrows furrowed even more fiercely. A few years ago, after the New Year's Eve dinner, she opened the door to his car without asking for his permission and got in. Then, in front of the hotel staff, he said, "Get out of the car." She even said coldly to her grandmother, who stood up for her, "Those who are qualified to sit in my car are all engraved on the memorial tablets." Those words were like sharp arrows that pierced her heart and her grandmother's heart. The lights outside the hotel were so bright that her grandmother's face was ghastly pale. Grandpa didn't think much of it and said, "Take the same car you came in and go back. It's the new year. Don't make your cousin unhappy. Don't make things difficult for your cousin." Was she looking for trouble with him? He was clearly the one who was making things difficult for her. From then on, she knew that no matter how much her grandfather doted on her, in the old man's heart, the eldest son and grandson were the most important. Even her little grandmother could not compare. And now, she saw him escorting a female soldier into the car with her own eyes. Didn't he say that everyone who could sit in his car had their names engraved on their memorial tablets? Who was the person sitting in his car now? He was even sitting in the front passenger seat. That must be someone Li Jinyan valued very much. Du Jiayi, whose eyes were dark, saw Li Jinyan close the car door and walk around the front of the car to leave. Memories of the past flashed through her mind, and she blinked her eyes lightly. The friend that Qin Xiu was waiting for. Could it be Li Jinyan? Thinking of this possibility, Du Jiayi suppressed the joy in her eyes and said in surprise, "Isn't that my cousin? Brother Qin Xiu. Are you friends with my brother?" The friend that he was waiting for was Li Jinyan. That was a good idea. Chapter 2792. It's my cousin, Brother Qin Xiu. I'll go over and say hi to him. Brother Qin Xiu, are you waiting for my cousin? Qin Xiu and Li Jinyan weren't close enough for him to go over and say hi. But when he remembered that Yi Qian was there, he didn't answer Du Jiayi and strode over. His actions made Du Jiayi even more certain that the friend he was waiting for was Li Jinyan, an annoying guy who had a very ordinary relationship with his family and little grandmother. Without thinking too much, Du Jiayi jogged past Qin Xiu and ran forward. After running a few steps, Du Jiayi suddenly saw a man who made her very afraid. Xia Jinyuan. Why is he here too? Should I still go over? The fear in her heart made Du Jiayi want to retreat for a moment. But when she saw that Qin Xiu had passed her again, Du Jiayi bit her lower lip and braced herself to continue jogging. Li Jinyan didn't pay attention to his surroundings. Now that he was in the military, he couldn't be as nervous as he was outside. He crossed the front of the car and got into the car quickly, as if he was afraid that Xia Jinyuan would suddenly chase after him and ask to go with him. When Li Jinyan started the car, he received a call from his comrades in the team telling him that they had already gotten into the car and left the military. The members of the Storm Tri-Amphibious Commando team left in 2 separate jeeps. They were temporarily staying at the same base as the Special Forces of the Snowfield Brigade. After the final selection of people going abroad tomorrow, the water demons, who weren't selected, would return to the naval base. Xiao Jinyuan saw that he was still holding his phone and starting the car. He frowned and raised his hand to knock on Yi Qian's car window. "Don't open it. Otherwise, we'll have to listen to him talk for a while," Li Jinyan said calmly to Yi Qian. He waved his right hand out of the car window, gesturing for Xiao Jinyuan to move away. At the same time, he rolled down the car window on his side, leaned forward, and said calmly, "Let's cut the crap. It's time for you to go back to the old mansion." In front, Du Jiai ran over and shouted, "Cousin, big cousin!" When Xiao Jinyuan's teammates heard this, they all turned to look at him. "Cousin? Who?" When Xiao Jinyuan recognized the female soldier who ran over, his eyes suddenly swept over her with a sharp gaze. That's right. He had forgotten a very important relationship. The deputy chief of staff, Du, was the son-in-law of the Li family. Madame Li was the daughter of Old Man Li and his second wife, and Demon King Li had to call Madame Li aunt. Family Xia didn't get along well with the Du family, but the Li family was related by marriage. "Your aunt's daughter, Du Jiai, is here," Xiao Jinyuan reminded him. Behind Du Jiai was Qin Xiao. Why were the two of them walking over one after the other? Sitting in the car, Li Jinyan also thought about the relationship between the Du family and family Xia. Before this, he probably didn't think too deeply about the relationship between the Du family, family Xia, and the Li family. Therefore, when Li Jinyan heard Du Jiai's name, his handsome face was slightly stunned. When he heard the two words cousin just now, he didn't realize who it was. He also didn't know that he was big cousin. He immediately raised his hand and lowered the visor in front of Yi Qian's passenger seat. "Move to the side. Don't let the people outside see you." He didn't have any sibling relationship with Du Jiai. He even called her outsiders. Yi Qian also heard Du Jiai's voice. She also didn't know that the person who called out cousin was her elder brother, Li. Madame Li was her elder brother's aunt. After straightening out their relationship, Yi Qian's heart shook violently. Chapter 2793. Brother, I had a conflict with Du Jiai during the rescue in the Snow Mountain. Get out of the car first. Don't let her see me. The shocked Yi Qian immediately revealed the conflict between her and Du Jiai. She tried to cause trouble for me, but she didn't manage to find out where I was. Li Jinyan's face darkened. He started the car and turned on the air conditioner. "Okay, sit in the car. Don't be afraid of her. I'm here for you." With that, he jumped out of the car and closed the door behind him. "I'm here for you." Yi Qian's lips curled up when she heard that. It felt great to have a brother who could protect her and prevent her from being bullied. Yi Qian looked at the bright windshield with a smile. After thinking for a while, she reclined her seat and sat in the back. She couldn't announce that she had returned to the Fu family. If Du Jiai saw her sitting in the same car as her brother, she would definitely investigate. Maybe she would really find out about her relationship with the Fu family. The Jeep's windows were very good. The people inside could see outside, but the people outside couldn't. Du Jiai, who had already run to the front of Qin Xiao, stood in front of the car and looked inside. She smiled at Li Jinyan and said, "Cousin, when did you come back to the capital? Why didn't I know you were here?" Her enthusiasm was very sudden to Li Jinyan. This was something that had never happened before. So wasn't it very sudden? "What's the matter?" he asked with a cold gaze. "Nothing. I just saw you and came over to say hi." Du Jiai sneered as she glanced inside the car. He was sitting in the front seat just now, but when he saw her, he climbed into the back seat. There must be something wrong. Could it be that Li Jinyan had a girlfriend, but he didn't want to tell his family? Xiao Jinyuan had already noticed that Qin Xiao was not looking at Du Jiai. As he walked over, he kept looking at the front passenger seat of the car. He saw Yi Qian just now and came over to greet Yi Qian. At that moment, Xiao Jinyuan's brain reacted and made the corresponding movements. "Ambassador Qin, long time no see." He quickly walked over and blocked Qin Xiao's path. Regardless of his relationship with Du Jiai, he could not allow him to call out Yi Qian's name now. Qin Xiu didn't expect that Xia Jinyuan would stop him from greeting him. Why would he do that? Was there a reason? What was the reason? Hello, Major Xia. Qin Xiu stopped in his tracks and glanced at Xia Jinyuan's epaulets. He nodded and smiled. Indeed, long time no see. People who weren't familiar with each other wouldn't have much to talk about. But for Xia Jinyuan, he could talk about anything. He smiled and said, I saw Ambassador Qin's speech a few days ago. It was very interesting and admirable. Major Xia, you flatter me. This is what I should do. As soon as Qin Xiu finished speaking, he heard Li Jinyan say to Du Jiai in a deep voice, I need to send my colleague back to the base. Goodbye. Yi Qian had become Li Jinyan's colleague. Qin Xiu was a little surprised, but then he felt that something was amiss. Yi Qian was a military school student. How could he be a colleague of Li Jinyan, who was in the Navy? They weren't colleagues, but they called each other colleagues. Could it be this was the reason why Xia Jinyuan stopped him from greeting Yi Qian? Qin Xiu suddenly remembered that Yi Qian had been entrusted with an important task by the military to accompany him to a neighboring country for negotiations. He immediately changed his mind about greeting Yi Qian and said to Xia Jinyuan, I'm sorry, Major Xia. I have something to discuss with Lieutenant Colonel Li. Please excuse me. Chapter 2794. This is interesting. No wonder J5 warned me not to be careless. The powerful Ambassador Qin is a terrifying love rival. At this moment, he changed his mind and said that he was here for Yi Qian. It was obvious that he already knew that it was not convenient for Yi Qian to greet him. As for how he thought of this, Lieutenant Colonel Xia, with a playful smile on his lips, looked deeply at the other party and smiled faintly. Ambassador Qin, please. He was indeed a terrifying man, but he could not be considered a love rival. He liked Yi Qian, but Yi Qian did not even know about it. How could he be considered a love rival? Du Jiai did not care about Li Jinyan's attitude towards her. Everyone was the same, so there was no need to be angry. It must be a very important colleague for Big Brother to send her off personally. I shall not disturb Big Brother's work. I wonder how long Cousin will stay this time. Grandpa really hopes that Cousin can come home and stay. So does little Grandma. They both miss Cousin very much. When she looked again, she still could not see what the female soldier in the car looked like. It was obvious that she was hiding from her. Li Jinyan, oh Li Jinyan, did you think that your girlfriend would not know who it was just because you asked her to hide? Huh. It was easy for Du Jiai to find out who was in the car. She could just look at the surveillance footage. However, Xia Jinyuan pressed the button and sent a message to Commander-in-Chief Xia. Old man Xia, your son and daughter-in-law are being watched. Please inform the control room to delete the surveillance footage for the past few hours. Remember to clean up the mother shell too. Xia Jinyuan, as a special forces soldier, could think of the things that she could think of even more. Li Jinyan, who did not want to talk to Du Jiai, nodded calmly. I'll leave first. Goodbye. Jinyan. Qin Xiu called out to Li Jinyan, who was about to turn around. I have something to say to you. Can you spare a minute? It's about the old man. He was telling Du Jiai that the friend he was waiting for was Li Jinyan. Yi Qian was still in the car, and Du Jiai, who loved to stir up trouble, was still outside the car. Li Jinyan did not plan to talk in private. If it's not something urgent, let's talk here. It wasn't anything important. He just needed to cooperate. Seeing this, Qin Xiu smiled and said, It's nothing important. Lieutenant Colonel Li will take our leave first. See you next time. Xia Jinyuan waved his hand again. Just as his hand was about to fall, he made a gesture. Li Jinyan nodded, indicating that he understood. Li Jinyan, Xia Jinyuan, and Qin Xiu were all outstanding men with high IQ and meticulous thoughts. They could understand the meaning behind a simple glance, a gesture, or a casual sentence. Seeing that Qin Xiu understood what he meant, Xia Jinyuan left with his comrades from the Snowfield Brigade. Du Jiai, who did not dare to look around, heard the sound of the car starting up behind her. Her back, which was slightly tense, suddenly relaxed. Xia Jinyuan was a scary and annoying guy. As long as he was around, she would be in trouble. Fortunately, he left. Du Jiai, who was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, felt a burning pain in her arm. Seeing that Qin Xiu was still talking to Li Jinyan, Du Jiai's eyes moved slightly. She wanted to get into the car and take a look. But before he could do anything, a cold voice suddenly shot over like an arrow. "What are you trying to do?" Chapter 2795. Du Jiai panicked. She hurriedly turned around and combed her hair. She frowned and complained, "It's too hot. Cousin, I want to blow on the air conditioner in your car." Even Qin Xiu's expression turned cold. He said to Li Jinyan, "If you have something to do, go ahead. We'll meet up again when we get back to Dangui Garden." "Okay." Li Jinyan looked at him deeply. He could feel that Qin Xiu was helping him get rid of Du Jiai. "I'll be at Dangui Garden when I'm free. Contact me when you're free." Qin Xiu's smile deepened. "Contact me when you're free." Without giving Du Jiai a chance to open the car door, Li Jinyan stepped on the accelerator. He didn't even look at Du Jiai as he left with Yi Qian. His indifference made Du Jiai smile coldly. She stared at the car without blinking until it disappeared from her sight. It seemed like she had to make a trip to Grandpa's house today to bring him good news. Eldest cousin might have found a female soldier as his girlfriend. Otherwise, why would he let an insignificant person sit in his car? Qin Xiu watched the car leave. He glanced at Du Jiai, who was still standing in the same spot. He raised his hand to look at the time. It was 10:15 in the morning. He still had to return to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. "Miss Du, I still have work to do. I'll leave first." She was the daughter of Deputy Chief of Staff. The trip to the Snow Mountain had taught him a lot. She didn't recognize him as the reporter who went to Tibet with the art troupe, but he had already recognized him. A woman who liked to bully her comrades and wanted to show off her generosity. It was already good that he didn't leave in a huff. Unfortunately, Mrs. Qin was interested in this pair of mother and daughter. He had to talk to Mrs. Qin when he got back. He didn't want her to be bewitched by the scheming wife of the Deputy Chief of Staff. Du Jiai didn't know that Qin Xiu didn't have a good impression of her. She hadn't met Qin Xiu a few times, nor did she have contact with Qin Xiu's friends. She thought that she had behaved well during the few times they met. How could Qin Xiu hate her? Qin Xiu really didn't hate her. He just saw through her other side and didn't want to be with her. Du Jiai, who had always been good at reading people's faces, didn't notice anything strange. She smiled reservedly and replied, "I should get going. Goodbye, Brother Qin Xiu." Qin Xiu, who didn't show any displeasure, nodded at her politely and then turned to leave. Qin Xiu's car couldn't enter and leave the military headquarters as he pleased. Instead, a staff member had parked it outside. He turned around and called the driver, indicating that he could drive over. Watching his slender figure slowly walk out of her line of sight, the smile on Du Jiai's face gradually turned cold. She couldn't tell what he was unhappy about, but as a woman, she could feel Qin Xiu's indifference toward her. Just now, he could smile and talk to Xia Jinyuan and Li Jinyan, but he was only cold toward her. Even if he smiled, it was a distant smile. Why was it like this? She couldn't remember when she had angered him, and she was sure that they had never interacted before. She suddenly had a crush on him because of his elegance on TV. Why was he so cold toward her? Until now, Du Jiai still hadn't recognized Qin Xiu as the reporter who had entered Tibet with their art troupe. Naturally, she didn't know why Qin Xiu was so cold towards her. Chapter 2796. Du Jiai, who was a little annoyed, saw that her father had not come out yet, so she took out her cell phone and called Mrs. Li. After calling Mrs. Li twice in a row, Du Jiai did not pick up. She was so annoyed that even the sound of cicadas was annoying. After a while, the cell phone in her pocket vibrated. Du Jiai, who looked gloomy, saw that it was Mrs. Li and immediately answered the phone. The caller ID showed that it was Mrs. Li, but the voice was not Mrs. Li's. "Jia, I'm Aunt Xiao. Sorry, your mother was trying on the gown just now and didn't receive your call in time. What can I do for you?" Madame Zhao's gentle and benevolent voice drifted over, and Du Jiai's face instantly broke into a smile. "Auntie Xiao, you're with my mother? It's nothing much. I just wanted to ask about her preparations." Aunt Xiao, will you come with us tonight? That's great. Then I will have 2 mothers to accompany me. A series of questions made Mrs. Xiao laugh. Mrs. Li, who had come out of the fitting room and was standing in front of the mirror, said to the waiter at the counter, "Changlan, Jia is clinging to me and you again tonight. No, we have to drive her away. If she stays with us all the time, those outstanding young men will definitely not dare to talk to her. We will delay Jia from finding a boyfriend again." Mrs. Li was in the shopping mall choosing the gown to attend Mrs. Qin's birthday party tonight. Her cell phone was in her bag, and the bag was held by Mrs. Xiao, so she did not receive Du Jiai's call. When she came out of the fitting room, she heard her friend say that her cell phone rang twice, so she asked her friend to see who it was. After knowing that it was her daughter, she asked her friend to call back. Hearing this, they couldn't help but laugh. It's not like you don't know that this child is a tyrant. She won't show her cowardice if she walks with us. If you really leave her alone, you won't be able to recover in 10 minutes. She hates these things the most. If it weren't for the fact that you and I are present, it would be a problem. After that, she said to the waiter who was half squatting to tidy her up, "My waist is a little uncomfortable. Did you make a mistake?" This was a famous custom-made chi pao in the capital. Madame Li and Madame Xiao were regular customers here. The waiter quickly opened the invisible zipper, folded it inside, and pulled the zipper up again. Only then did Mrs. Li feel that her waist was not tight. When it was Ms. Zhao's turn to try it on, she picked up the phone. This time, she didn't turn on the speaker. When she heard her daughter's voice, she waited for Madame Xiao to enter the fitting room before saying gently, "Your father called me just now. He said that Qin Xiu went to the military with you this morning. Jiai, did you tell him about what happened tonight?" Du Jiai, who was not in a good mood, said in a low voice, "I didn't ask. Dad asked for me. He said he would try to go back as soon as possible. Mom, although Aunt Qin said it, Qin Xiu didn't agree, so I can't force him. I don't want him to have a bad impression of me. Furthermore," she paused for a moment before continuing, "also, I feel that he's very cold to me. He doesn't treat me differently just because Aunt Qin likes me. Everything has a process, and this process is a progress. Didn't your Auntie Qin say that Qin Xiu is someone who doesn't know how to please a girl? That's right. If he treats you well one day, it means that there's progress between the two of you." Chapter 2797. Mrs. Li could hear the sadness in her daughter's voice, so she couldn't help but comfort her. Qin Xiu, this son-in-law, needless to say, was a 1 in a million choice. As long as her daughter married into the Qin family, all her wishes in this lifetime would be fulfilled. In the future, the Du family would be a cut above everyone else no matter where they went, and they would be held in high regard wherever they went. How many of the people who laughed at her for marrying a military officer could be as good as her now? She would be the real winner after her daughter married into the Qin family. Du Jiai walked to the shade and stood there, but her mood didn't lighten up. A few years ago, he and a senior official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomed an important guest to China for an interview. Because of his good looks and outstanding aura, the camera that usually only focused on the leader gave him a close-up. Although it was only for 4 seconds, it made her remember him. She couldn't stop her crush. It wasn't until 3 years later that she confessed to her mother that she liked a diplomat. At that time, her mother thought she liked a normal diplomat. It wasn't until she saw the photo that she realized she liked Qin Xiu. At that time, the Du family and the Qin family had just met, and her mother and Mrs. Qin had just met. It wasn't until this year that the relationship between the Du family and the Qin family improved, and her mother finally brought her to meet Mrs. Qin. Everything had happened so naturally that she had finally arrived in front of him. She spent so much effort to meet him. No. She couldn't be discouraged by Qin Xiu's indifference to her. She had a crush on him for so long, and she had to have a satisfying ending. Jiai, seeing that her daughter didn't speak for a long time, Mrs. Li didn't even have the mood to pick out a dress. She picked up her phone and wanted to persuade her again. Du Jiai's voice came from the phone. "It's so hot outside, Mom. Don't worry, I'm fine. I persisted for so long. How can I be defeated by his indifference? Since he's like this to any woman, then I don't have to be discouraged. The more he's like this, the more I won't let go. Mom, wait for my good news. I'll definitely make Qin Xiu your son-in-law. You and Annie Xiao, I'll go home after I send Dad back to the General Staff Department. She waited patiently for Qin Xiu until he became her boyfriend. If it were any other matter, she would have used her methods long ago. But Qin Xiu couldn't do it. She didn't dare to use too many tricks, fearing that this man who smiled like a clear breeze and bright moon would go further and further away and in the end become a stranger to her. For Qin Xiu, she had to be very careful. She couldn't afford to make any mistakes. The deputy chief of staff Du walked out and looked around when he didn't see his daughter outside. He saw his daughter waving at him while talking to someone. Mom, Dad is out. I won't talk to you anymore. See you later. Bye-bye. Hearing her daughter's energetic voice, Mrs. Lee nodded in satisfaction and hung up the phone. Of the 2 sons and 2 daughters, her youngest daughter was the one who resembled her the most. When they got into the car, the deputy chief of staff Du was tickled by his daughter's request and burst into laughter. My dear Jai, do you really think I can access the military surveillance system just because I want to? You're a soldier. How can you be so naive? Even if it's the General Staff Department surveillance system, I can't access it just because I want to. The military? Ha ha ha. You really dare to dream. Chapter 2798. After getting into the car, Qin Xiu was on the phone with Mrs. Qin. When he found out that Du Jia was arranged to be his female companion, Qin Xiu, who was usually gentle and elegant, had a terrifyingly gloomy expression on his face. I won't go to Deputy Chief of Staff Du's house to pick Miss Du up, nor will I let her be my female companion. After I finish my work, I'll go to Ningwei Garden to pick up Grandpa and Grandma. Tonight, I'll be with them the entire time. Mom, although Grandpa and Grandma aren't in charge now, if you go too far and ask Grandpa and Grandma to step in, how will you face them? She was a little impolite, which made Mrs. Qin, who was at home, so angry that her heart ached. The older her good son grew, the more daring he was to talk back to her. Now, he even brought up Grandpa and Grandma Qin. If you brought home a girlfriend with a clean family background, I wouldn't have to worry about you. Mrs. Qin, who was rubbing her chest, was also furious. She sat in front of the dressing table and smashed the comb in half. This won't do. Which one won't do? Do you really want to stay single for the rest of your life? Your grandpa and grandma aren't in charge now because they've completed their responsibilities. Their children have already started their own families. As for you, I had the responsibility to arrange everything for you since I gave birth to you. When you get married and have children, my responsibilities will also be completed. Every time this topic was brought up, Qin Xiu felt helpless. He could easily deal with the difficulties of other countries, but he felt powerless every time he faced his mother's questions. You can remove this unnecessary responsibility and let me make my own choice. Mom, you say you're tired, but how can I not be tired too? Today is your birthday. I don't want to make you angry. I'll hang up first. See you tonight. After putting away his phone, Qin Xiu couldn't help but pinch between his eyebrows. Every time he called Mrs. Qin, he was so tired that he felt like he had been working for days and nights. Ambassador, there's a car following us, the driver suddenly said. It just caught up not long ago. Qin Xiu immediately restrained his expression and turned his head to look back. When he saw the car and the license plate, his tiredness disappeared and he smiled at the driver. My friend, pull over. The 2 cars stopped. Li Jinyan and Qin Xiu got out of the car one after another. Thank you for just now. Li Jinyan got out of the car and walked over. You came over because you saw Yi Qian, right? I'm sorry, but it's not convenient for Yi Qian to get out of the car now. Please forgive me. Sure enough, it was inconvenient for others to see. Qin Xiu smiled and said, Why don't you get out of the car? I'll go over and say hello. How about that? Must I go and greet him? Li Jinyan couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Why did he feel that something was amiss? Li Jinyan, who was confused, nodded and took Qin Xiu back to his car. Yi Qian, who was sitting in the car, was a little surprised when he saw the 2 of them walking over. Why did they bring Qin Xiu over? After the 2 of them walked past, Yi Qian rolled down the car window. Qin Xiu walked over and saw the girl who had fallen into his heart wearing a military uniform. She sat in the car and looked at him with her bright eyes. "Long time no see, Yi Qian." He stood outside the car and had no intention of getting in. He smiled and said to her, "When I saw you just now, I was a little surprised. I didn't expect to see you in the military." Yi Qian smiled and said, "Indeed, it's been a long time. I didn't expect to see you in the military either. I almost got into trouble just now, didn't I?" They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Qin Xiu wanted to chat with her for a while more, but he knew that he had to walk over and say hello. He had already surprised the two of them. It wouldn't be good to waste time chatting. "I'm sorry. I was reckless just now. I have to apologize to you." Chapter 2799. Li Jinyan saw that he didn't even intend to get in the car, and his tone was very polite, so the strange feeling in his heart disappeared. He was so modest and polite that Yi Qian, who didn't get out of the car, felt a little embarrassed. No, you don't have to apologize. It's my problem. It has nothing to do with you. You see, I haven't gotten out of the car yet. It's already very rude of me. You should apologize to me again, Qin Xiu. Based on our friendship, I really wasn't being polite. I should be the one apologizing. With the friendship between the two of us, I really won't be polite. This sentence made Qin Xiu's eyes full of smiles. Under the sunlight, the elegant man with a smile on his face was like a noble young master who had walked out of a painting. He had a scholarly aura and a noble aura. His black eyes, which looked like they were carved from black jade, gently looked at Yi Qian, looking at the girl in front of him who could make him feel happy with just one sentence. Qin Xiu said softly, "I was too polite. Based on our friendship, you really didn't have to be so polite." As if he felt that he had revealed too much of his inner feelings, Qin Xiu immediately adjusted his tone and said, "I won't tell anyone about what happened today. Don't worry." She could see him, but she said that she couldn't see him because of personal problems. Then, there was only one person she couldn't see. Qin Xiu, who was standing in the same place as he watched the car leave, couldn't help but purse his lips. There was only one person who didn't see Yi Qian, and that person was Li Jinyan's cousin. The person Yi Qian couldn't see was Du Jiai. In the car, Li Jinyan asked Yi Qian, "What kind of friendship do you two have?" "We've been through life and death together," Yi Qian replied with a smile. Li Jinyan knew that it wasn't convenient for him to ask any more questions. Been through life and death together? What was a life and death friendship? It was a life and death friendship that could only be described as a life and death friendship. His sister had been on a mission with the excellent diplomat who had stood watching them go. Li Jinyan glanced at the rearview mirror outside the car. The young diplomat, who was dressed elegantly and had a gentle temperament unique to the Qin family, stood there motionlessly. Even when Li Jinyan drove the car 100 meters away, he still stood there and watched. The strange feeling that had disappeared in an instant suddenly surged into her heart. Qin Xiu seemed to treat her younger sister a little differently. He clearly didn't have to come over to say hello, but he still came in the end. He obviously didn't have to stand there, but he just stood there without moving. Could it be that they were different because they had gone through life and death together? This was also a possibility. Li Jinyan did not think too much about it. Instead, he asked how Yi Qian had offended Du Jiai. Although he had participated in the rescue mission that year, he didn't know that Du Jiai was part of the rescue team. In addition, he wasn't familiar with Yi Qian at the time, so she didn't mention what had happened with Du Jiai during the rescue mission. Now that Yi Qian mentioned the Snow Mountain rescue mission, Li Jinyan was stunned for a few seconds. "You said that Du Jiai was one of the people we lost contact with when we went to Tibet for training?" "Yes, and the enmity between us started from that night." Thinking about the conflict between herself and Du Jiai, Yi Qian's eyes were cold. Even now, she didn't regret going against Du Jiai, whose words were like needles. Yi Jinyan recounted the verbal conflict that night. Although it had been a long time, her memory had always been good. She could recount every word that Du Jiai had said, as well as what she herself had said, one by one. Chapter 2800. Every word that comes out of your mouth sounds very polite, but what about the truth? She hinted to all her comrades that I was forcing myself to save people for the sake of my reputation. She said that I saved people and made my comrades busy around me. In the end, I got angry and didn't treat her well. Because of this, she bore a grudge against me. Later, I heard from Captain Xia that she tried to investigate me again, but to no avail. When school started this year, I went to the capital to visit Captain Xia, who was injured, and I met her again because of Yi Jifan's daughter. Li Jinyan's eyes turned cold. His sister had been tripped up by Du Jai twice, and he had been there both times. When Avalanche rescued her, he had been at the scene. When Xia Jinyuan was injured, he had also been there. However, at that time, he hadn't reunited with his sister and missed the chance to help her again. Du Jai has been the same since she was young. In the past, Li Jinyan pursed his lips and continued. In the past, because of my grandfather's second wife, our relationship with the Li family was ordinary. Later, when my father's second wife tried to drive me out of the Li family, Du Jai even tipped me off twice. At that time, I thought that she was different. He thought that she was different, but in the end, he found out that she wasn't different. She was just better at hiding it. At that time, how old was Du Jai? She was only 8 or 9 years old. Du Jai was terrifyingly scheming when she was 8 or 9 years old. Little grandmother, Jai doesn't like big cousin. She doesn't like big uncle either. Mom said that big uncle always makes you angry. Grandpa even left all the good things in the house to big cousin, causing Jai to lose everything. Jai doesn't like big cousin at all. He still remembered that Du Jai's tender voice came from the room where the door wasn't completely closed. He heard every word clearly. Mom told me everything. Little grandmother, don't worry about Jai. Jai knows what she's doing. Grandpa gave her so many good things, and Jai wants to take them back for you. So that was the truth. Since then, Li Jinyan had no more contact with Du Jai. He didn't even want to say a word to her. Later, when he went to school and joined the army, he almost forgot about Du Jai. He also found it funny that his grandfather's second wife had asked him to represent the Li family at her birthday party last time. Yi Qian was dumbfounded. She knew that Du Jai was a scheming person, but she didn't know that she knew how to scheme at the age of 8 or 9. No wonder Captain Xia said that she was able to secretly harm her best friend when she was in junior high. In the end, she even pretended to be anxious for her best friend. At that time, she was already in junior high. Naturally, her skills were much better than when she was in elementary school. It was inconceivable that an 8 or 9-year-old child could be so scheming. She's been like this since she was a child. She's very good at lying and scheming. There aren't many people who are really close to her. Li Jinyan didn't have any bad intentions toward Du Jai. As a man, he wasn't so petty as to be calculative with her. After finding out what kind of person she was, he immediately distanced himself from her without giving her a reason. As a result, Du Jai still didn't know that Li Jinyan had heard what she said when she was young. Even if she knew now, she probably wouldn't remember what she said when she was young. She had said too many bad things about others. How could she remember them all? Yi Qian rubbed her brows and sighed softly. I didn't think that you and Du Jai were cousins. When Captain Xia said that just now, I was a little dumbfounded. We don't have any relationship to begin with. Don't feel burdened. Chapter 28:01. His indifferent answer made Yi Qian chuckle again. She asked mischievously, So, Big Brother only admits that I'm your only sister? You're my only sister. You didn't come home in the past, so I didn't have a sister either. The two siblings talked back and forth, and the atmosphere was cheerful and harmonious. They drove back to Dangue Garden. When the old man saw the two siblings, he was so happy that he refilled half a bowl of rice for lunch. Looking at his slender and elegant granddaughter, and then looking at his handsome grandson, the more the old man looked at them, the happier he was. He asked his granddaughter, and then asked his grandson. His old and energetic laughter came from time to time, making Butler Fu, who was still cleaning up in the kitchen, chuckle. I don't need the two of you to accompany me every few days. Young people have their own careers. Don't waste your time on me. Understand? The times are good now. There are opportunities for young people like you to show your talents. As long as you're willing to do it, the country will give you the opportunity to work hard. Don't complain about this and that all day long. You can say that you're unrecognized for your talent. You need to reflect on yourself. You have to do it once a week, not 3 times a day. If you say that you're unrecognized for your talent, you have to reflect on whether your talent is lazy talent or real talent. Things are different now. In the past, there was no way out. But now, you have to walk your own path. If you're talented, you're a pearl that will shine. Li Jinyan had been educated by the old man since he was a child. Therefore, he was not as ruthless as the Li family, who would use unscrupulous means to get everything. The old man taught him tolerance and also taught him to be open and above board. But the old man had never taught Yi Qian. Although he knew that his granddaughter was very good, the old man, who had never taught his granddaughter, could not help but educate Yi Qian the way he had taught Li Jinyan when he was a child. Yi Qian listened very carefully to the old man's personal education. He had been able to deal with all the difficulties in his life, and he had never given up even in such a harsh era. Li Jinyan's cold eyes were filled with warmth when he saw how obedient she was. We can only be at ease if all of you are well. Jinyan, when are you going to find a good wife and bring her back for Grandpa to see? Look at your sister. She has a boyfriend now. You are her brother and 7 years older than her. You have to hurry up. First, he was preaching, then he was urging them to get married. The topic changed so quickly that Li Jinyan was stunned for 3 seconds. He didn't immediately respond to the old man's words. When Yi Qian saw this, he immediately sided with the old man and said with a smile, "That's right, brother. When will you bring back a sister-in-law for me? Grandpa is waiting, and so am I." However, she never imagined that, because of her quick mouth, Li Jinyan would end up driving her and the old master. With the air conditioner in the car, they headed all the way to the old Xia residence to visit old Master Xia and old Madam Xia. Even the cold-tempered Li Jinyan couldn't help but chuckle along the way. His chuckle was so intense that it seemed as if the spring breeze had melted his cold features. Yi Qian didn't even know how to get into the car. She was confused. She should be chatting with Grandpa at home, not in the car. How did she get into the car? She had no idea why she agreed to accompany Grandpa to visit Master Xia and old Madame Lu. Chapter 28:02. When I was young, I would play the game of deduction with Grandpa, but I never won. It wasn't until I entered high school that I was able to win once or twice in Grandpa's deduction games. If you were to compete with Grandpa in IQ, it would be very difficult for you to win. Li Jinyan's answer made Yi Qian understand what it meant to be crushed by IQ. Back then, Big Brother suddenly stopped supporting our country. At that time, we didn't have computers. All we had was the abacus passed down by our ancestors. Grandpa and countless respected old scientists took the abacus at home to the laboratory. They filled the laboratory with bundles of pencils and sheepskin papers. The old scientists sat in the laboratory without the help of any computing equipment. They took the remaining papers that were half burned by the fire and calculated with the abacus day and night. They wrote formulas on the sheepskin papers and drew pictures on the sheepskin papers. Look at you. If Grandpa were to use his brain a little, he would definitely make you finish everything. You wouldn't even know why you agreed to it. After he finished speaking, Li Jinyan, who was driving in front, couldn't help but laugh out loud again. The old man was as happy as an old urchin. When he heard this, he said to Yi Qian with interest, "Do you want to play a round of deduction tonight? This was your brother's favorite game. Every time he came home and saw that I was free, he would come over to make a fuss." Yi Qian was really interested in this. She got into the car and began to play the game of deduction with the old man. Seeing this, Li Jinyan shook his head. See, he used to be led by the nose by Grandpa like this. Now, it was his sister's turn. Xia Jinyuan drove back to family Xia's old residence in Beihai in time for lunch. Before he could rest, he was dragged to his vegetable garden by Master Xia to help water it. At this time, he didn't know that his girlfriend had come with the old man. Under the hot sun, He tested the temperature of the water in the water tank with his hand. It was already warm. Wasn't he afraid that it would drown his daughter's vegetables? Where are your eyes? Don't you see the freshly dug soil? Pour water in here. The old man did not stand on ceremony and patted his grandson. He was wearing a short coat and holding an old cattail leaf fan in his hand. He stood in the shade and waved the fan, directing Xia Jinyuan to work. Xia Jinyuan resigned himself to his fate. Not only did he water the vegetable garden, but he also went to the greenhouse to catch insects and pull out weeds for the old madam. He was so busy that he ran around in circles. Old madam's heart ached when she saw her grandson busying himself. She poked the old man's arm with the handle of the fan in her hand. How long are you going to keep this up? If you don't see the sun, why don't you let old Sixth have a good rest? What's there to rest for? If you rest, you'll have to run. Hurry his mother up and see if she's here yet. Tell her to quickly come and take a look at Sixth brother and then leave. Don't disturb you all day long. When the silver-haired old madam heard this, she poked the old man with the handle of her fan. What do you mean? I'm just here to ask about the situation. Don't spout nonsense, or else Sixth brother will feel uncomfortable. He doesn't like Shu Man to begin with. If you continue to say this, won't the mother and son become enemies? Although old madam did not like her former daughter-in-law, she had never made things difficult for her. Now that she saw Madame Xiao all alone, she could not help but feel pity for her. There was a sigh in her kind voice. Sigh, it's not our wish to come to this, but old Sixth is stubborn. Persuade him, persuade him. Chapter 28:03. The old man waved his hand and said sternly, "There's no need to persuade her. Where there's a cause, there's an effect. She left in a carefree manner back then, so why can't she do the same now? Family Xia has been kind to her and doesn't owe her anything. You should feel sorry for her. Back then, in order to leave family Xia, she brought Sixth son to the airport and left him in the cafe. She didn't call us until she boarded the plane. The old man had killed countless enemies, and his hands were stained with more blood than Xia Jinyuan's. When he was young, he was so fierce that even Commander-in-Chief Xia didn't dare to have a meal with him. Now that he was old, his fierceness was gone, but his sternness was still there. At the mention of the past, the old man, who had already calmed down, still looked angry. The sternness on his face grew stronger. Xia Jinyuan, who was watering the plants with a hose in both hands, seemed to notice it. He looked in the direction of the two elders and said with a smile, "You two aren't quarreling again, are you? Why do you look so pale? Children are not allowed to interrupt when adults are talking. Water the plants carefully. Front, front. Can't you see the front? The front is about to be watered. When you get home, work hard and don't slack off." The old man knew that his grandson had sharp ears and eyes. He was afraid that his grandson would leave after finding out that his irresponsible mother had returned and continued to find trouble for him to stay. Colonel Xia, who was happily watering the plants with a hose in his hand, heard the old man say harshly, "When your uncle came back a few days ago, he obediently plucked the grass for me the whole morning. If you slack off, you'll be punished according to the family rules." Family Xia's family rules were an old rattan soaked in tung oil. When it was whipped on the body, TSK, 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 the pain was unforgettable. Xia Jinyuan saw this and whistled to the tune of "I'm a Soldier." "Old woman, look at Sixth son. He's standing in front of us now." Back then, she was so bold. She casually found a place to put her own son like he was an unwanted piece of old clothing. Then, she went to flirt with a gigolo. If it weren't for Sixth son's luck, he might have been abducted back then. So what if she's turned back now? Who said that everyone had to forgive her if she turned around? So Sixth brother had to call her mom? There are no such rules and regulations. You have to taste the bitter fruit of your own sins. Even if you break your teeth, you have to swallow that mouthful of blood and broken teeth. My family Xia no longer has anything to do with her. My family Xia and her are even when she threw old Sixth to the airport like old clothes. Old woman, don't be too soft-hearted. You can't be soft-hearted to some people. Being soft-hearted will cause problems. Master Xia was old, and his heart had softened a lot. If it were his old temper, he would have asked the servants to pick up a stick and chase her out. Old Madame Xiao, who pitied Madame Xiao, hardened her heart when she thought about what had happened in the past. She thought about how her grandson had been abandoned at the airport by his mother and had almost not been found. You're right. Our family Xia doesn't owe her anything. We really don't owe her. She doesn't owe our family Xia anything, nor does she owe Xin Hui anything. She only owes Sixth Brother. Old Master Xia nodded. She gave birth to him but didn't raise him. She even abandoned Sixth Brother. Old woman, she said that she had suffered a lot, but did she know the pain in Sixth Brother's heart? How could she have known? If she had known, she wouldn't have ignored Sixth Brother. Now that she's back, it's only natural that Sixth Brother ignored her. Chapter 28:04. Madame Dowager took out her handkerchief and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. She gazed lovingly at her grandson, who was now successful, and said with relief, "Fortunately, our Sixth Brother is a capable child. Even when he was young, he knew how to behave appropriately. If he didn't get into trouble, he wouldn't have been able to get out of it. Now, he's even more successful. A child without a mother has come this far. That's enough. Yes. We'll naturally stand on our grandson's side. When she comes later, if our grandson doesn't want to see her, then he won't see her," the old man said with a smile. He looked at Xia Jinyuan with his wise eyes and was satisfied with his grandson, who said that the elderly have to be magnanimous and can't take advantage of their seniority. Old children. Ha! We're old children now. Occasionally, we'll be unreasonable. The old man's teasing made Madame Dowager laugh as well. Old man, Sixth Brother isn't like his father. He's just like you. He's been a hooligan since he was young. Hooligan. As long as he knows what he's doing and knows how to follow the rules, he's smart. Ha. Sixth Brother is like me. He's smart. Hearing the old man flattering himself, Madame Dowager fanned herself even faster. Sixth Brother was indeed like his grandfather. Her children didn't dare to say it, but she did. Even when they were hooligans, they were equally hooligans. Hooligans had their benefits. They wouldn't let themselves be taken advantage of and wouldn't let themselves be wronged. Madame Dowager sighed softly. She had thought it through and decided not to interfere in the matter between her grandson and her ex-daughter-in-law. She was old. She would let them live a comfortable life for a few days. There was no need to let her grandson suffer and help others. Madame Dowager didn't accompany her anymore. Aunt Fong, who had been serving her at home for decades, helped her back to her room. "You're still too soft-hearted." Madame shouted and begged the old man, and only begged you. Didn't she think that you would pity her because you're soft-hearted? Old Madame, if I may say something against the rules, Madame Xiao is neither your relative nor your friend. Back then, before she divorced the commander-in-chief, she only had superficial feelings for you. You've remembered that little bit of friendship for too long. It's time to exhaust it. Sixth Brother is all grown up now. In a few years, he will be 30 years old. His heart will be clear. Why would he need you to worry about him? You should just relax and have a grandchild. After Sixth Brother's wife marries you, you should take good care of your granddaughter-in-law. That's the right thing to do. Aunt Fong had served old Madame all her life. She was loyal and devoted, and she had never been disloyal. Seeing old Madame's heart soften again and again, she felt anxious. Now that old Madame seemed to be wavering and old Master Fong was hinting at her with his eyes, Aunt Fong would naturally do her best to persuade her. She didn't want her young miss to be wronged. Even now, Aunt Fong would sometimes call old Madame young miss. Old Madame walked slowly, fanning herself with every step she took. She entered the room and lay down on the old rattan rocking chair. She rocked back and forth and sighed again. Everything will prosper if the family is harmonious. Our old family, Xia, is just new. Sigh, let's not talk about it. Go to the front of the hall and keep an eye on her for me. When she comes, come and inform me. Take a nap. I'll keep an eye on her. Aunt Fong took out a small cloth that was just enough to cover the waist and stomach. There were only 2 thin layers of cotton cloth. She covered old Madame with it and then turned the fan down. When she saw old Madam fall asleep, she quietly left the room. Chapter 28:05. Family Xiao's old home used to be a big house surrounded by trees to shade them from the sun. Although it was scorching outside, it was extremely cool inside the house. The old lady's body was not very good, and she could not stand the cold. She had to cover the fan to prevent herself from catching a cold. Xiao Jinyuan did not know that Mrs. Xiao, who he did not want to see the most, was rushing to Beihai. She was very anxious in the car and urged the driver to go faster, for fear that she would miss seeing her son. "You, wipe your sweat. You're so anxious that you're sweating." Mrs. Li, who was sitting in the back, took a tissue and handed it to her. Yuan is with old master and old madam at the old house now. He won't be in a hurry to leave. Don't worry, you'll see him when you get there. What's more, old madam called you in person, which means that she will keep Yuan and won't let you go empty-handed. Mrs. Li persuaded her softly. She had just had a facial treatment half a month ago, and now she did not look like an old lady in her early 60s. People would believe her if she said that she was in her mid-40s. Wearing the most elegant cheongsam, she had the calm temperament of a strong woman. Even Mrs. Xiao, who was a few years younger than her, could not compare to her. Mrs. Li was proud of her success now, and Mrs. Xiao, who had abandoned her husband and son and returned to China alone, could not compare with Mrs. Li, who had a son and a daughter and a grandson. Madame Xiao wiped the sweat off her forehead and looked at her friend who insisted on accompanying her. "Just drop me off at the entrance of the alley. I'll go there by myself. I'm sorry to have troubled you so much when I came back. You don't have to accompany me. I'll go there alone." Madame Li gently patted the back of her old friend's hand. "I'm worried about you going there alone. Yuan has a temper and has a grudge against you. You suddenly came to the old house to look for him. I don't know if you'll be angry. I don't know what old Xia has taught Yuan that he doesn't want to see you, his mother. I'll go with you. I want to ask Yuan if he still has any rules." "Rules?" Madame Xiao chuckled softly. "I didn't have any rules here decades ago, so why should I restrict him?" The Xia family. Madame Xiao looked out of the car window, not letting Madame Li see the flickering light in her eyes. The Xia family is the most law-abiding family. They have been standing strong for hundreds of years. Yuan is the son of the old master and old madam. If he doesn't know the rules, no one will. These words made Madame Li's expression a little stiff. Why did it sound like she was accusing her of saying something wrong? Madame Li glanced darkly at Madame Xiao, who had turned her head to look outside. Madame Li followed her words with a smile and said, "That's true. Family Xia is one of the top aristocratic families in the imperial city." Yuan is also considered the third generation of the Red family. He is a soldier, and soldiers abide by the rules the most. So, you don't have to worry that he won't meet you. "I hope so." Madame Xiao replied absent-mindedly and didn't want to say anything more. Madame Li, who was accompanying her, couldn't figure out what her old friend was thinking. She had always been reliable, so she didn't say anything more. She would take one step at a time. After all, she would be able to see a good show today. An old aristocratic family stood tall for 100 years. Ha! How could there be a family that stood tall for 100 years? It was just that they hadn't encountered any major events. Chapter 28:06. Mrs. Li patted the back of Mrs. Zhao's hand gently. She seemed to be comforting her good friend, but a mysterious smile appeared on her face. Xiao Jinyuan knew that Mrs. Xiao was coming, so he was removing the insects in the old lady's greenhouse. When he heard that Mrs. Xiao was here, his expression became much colder, and even his eyes became cold. "Does she often come to disturb you and Grandma?" He put down the tweezers he used to catch the insects, and his handsome eyes were cold. "How many times has she come?" "Mostly to disturb Grandma, right?" "I don't remember how many times she has come. I only know that she is too close to the Du family now. Every time she comes back, she is accompanied by the Li family's aunt, who is married off. Every time she comes back, your grandma will sigh for several days. Sixth brother, we are on your side when it comes to your relationship with your mother. Go, make it clear to her, and make her give up on being close to you." It's been decades. She finally remembers that she has a son. If she wants to acknowledge you as her son, she has to ask for my permission first. I don't agree. This is my opinion. Go and tell her that the old family Xia's attitude is one word. No. The old man was a very principled person. He had been a soldier all his life, and his methods were even better. Ordinary people did not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. Therefore, every time Mrs. Xiao came, she only dared to disturb the old lady and did not dare to act rashly in front of the old man. Xia Jinyuan, who grew up in his grandparents' house, was taught by the old man. Ordinary people did not dare to provoke him. At that time, in the villa complex, even children 4 or 5 years older than him could easily bully other children, but they did not dare to bully Xia Jinyuan. Everyone knew that Xia Jinyuan was not to be trifled with. If they provoked him, they would not have a good life. Miss Xiao had indeed crossed Xia Jinyuan's bottom line this time. He had told her not to disturb the elderly couple, but she didn't listen to him. With a cold look in his eyes, he turned off the faucet and walked to the wash basin. He washed the sweat off his face with both hands. Even his eyelashes were wet. He said to the old man, "I've made you worry about me. Leave this matter to me. It's already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You should go back to your room and rest for a while. I'll go and receive her. You and Grandma can rest." "Okay, I'll go with your grandmother. She's the most soft-hearted. I have to let her stay in the house. I can't let your mother beg her." With his grandson's words, the old man fanned himself and slowly got up. Xia Jinyuan handed him the crutches and helped him back into the house. Before Xia Jinyuan could walk out of the garden, the servant who had been guarding outside trotted over and brought him a surprise. "Quick, quick, please sit in the main hall." The old man was the happiest. Originally, he had wanted to go back to his room to rest, but now he was a little worried. This old man came over on such a hot day. Could something have happened to him? What happened? Little Fox had returned to Dangaway Garden with the devil siblings. Old Master should be happy. How could something have happened to him? Xia Jinyuan tried hard to suppress his surprise, but he still asked uncertainly, "Who came over with Old Master?" Old Master's granddaughter and grandson came with him. The servant's answer made Xia Jinyuan's cold and sharp eyes soften. He raised his eyebrows and said to the old man, "Your future granddaughter-in-law is here. You can meet her today." His future granddaughter-in-law was here. The old man was so happy that he could not close his mouth. He said to Xia Jinyuan, "Hurry and ask your grandmother to come out. I'll go and accompany your Grandpa Fu first. Hurry up. She's already come to visit in person. She can't be rude." Chapter 28:07. Yes. I'll go right away. Take care. Yi Jian's arrival made Xia Jinyuan so happy that his heart felt like it was flying. He really did not expect that Little Fox would accompany the old master to the Xia family's old house. Master Xia saw that his grandson had suddenly become a lackey. He did not feel annoyed and felt that his grandson was being genuine. It was a good thing that his grandson liked the granddaughter of the Fu family. He valued her, doted on her, and kept her in his heart. Only then would they be able to love each other. He did not even try to hide his feelings for the young lady in front of him. Not bad, at least in terms of relationships. His grandson was a responsible man. He was a real man. Your Grandpa Fu only has one granddaughter. It was not easy to get her back, but before he could dote on her for a few years, she was taken advantage of by you. You brought her into the family Xia and made her the daughter-in-law of the family Xia. In the future, even the family Xia will be considered the Fu family. The Fu family can only be considered her maiden family. Old 6, she was coaxed into your hands before she even graduated from high school. Now, she only has you in her heart. You can't treat her badly. You have to treat her well so that she can treat you well. Only then can the two of you be together for a long time and not become husband and wife halfway. When you see your Grandpa Fu later, greet him respectfully. Be steady and control your temper. When it's appropriate, bend down in front of the young lady and give in to her. Make your Grandpa Fu feel better and more at ease. Do you understand? Master Xia was a reasonable person. He knew that his old friend's family did not have many descendants. His only granddaughter only knew of her existence after 20 years. Fortunately, she was back. Otherwise, the Fu family would have no successor. He was worried that Xia Jinyuan was young and would sometimes act arrogantly and make Yiqian sad. Therefore, he lectured him in advance to prevent them from fighting in the future. You're right. I'm the one who pulled her down the same path as me. I held her hand and didn't intend to let go halfway. I'll only hold her hand for the rest of my life. I won't let go of anyone else. We will love each other for a long time. We will not let you and Grandpa Fu be sad. We will definitely make you happy. Xia Jinyuan's answer was very honest and came from the bottom of his heart. It couldn't be any more true. Some families were afraid that their sons would forget their mothers after marrying a wife. However, Family Xia was not afraid. Men with Family Xia were all sentimental. No matter how chaotic the outside world was, they would only hold their wives in their hands. They would be in love for a lifetime and hold hands for a lifetime. There was no conflict between marrying a wife and being filial to the elders. Those men who forgot their mothers after marrying a wife had a problem with their character. If the in-laws couldn't give the daughter-in-law a sense of belonging to the family, and the daughter-in-law couldn't be filial to her mother-in-law, the family would be scattered. How could there be prosperity if the people's hearts were not united? Therefore, the elders of Family Xia were never worried that their descendants would forget their mothers after marrying a wife. They believed in the judgment of their descendants and believed that such a day would not come. After walking out of the vegetable garden, the main hall was on the left and the backyard was on the right. Xia Jinyuan wanted to go to the backyard to ask old madam to come out. However, he had only taken 2 steps when Xia Jinyuan caught up with him. Madam Xiao will be here too. Why don't you accompany Grandpa Fu to sit in the backyard? I'll go and say hello to Grandpa Fu before asking Grandma to come out. Old man Xia patted himself on the head with his palm leaf fan and smiled. Look at me, I almost forgot that there are guests coming. Chapter 28:08. The back garden of the old mansion was not big. In the past, there was a small pavilion used to admire the flowers. Later, the pavilion was gone and a tea room was built. Sometimes, the old man would play chess and chat with his friends in the tea room. That's good too. Come with me to say hello, then you can ask your grandmother to come out. Move quickly, don't drag your feet. The old man walked quickly with his walking stick. Dong dong dong. Sounds came from afar. Yiqian, who was sitting in the main hall, straightened her back when she heard it. Master Xia was the founding lieutenant general of the country in the 1950s and 1960s. He was also the youngest lieutenant general at that time. As a soldier, she had a natural reverence for the founding lieutenant general. Yiqian, who had been waiting in the main hall since she entered the Family Xia mansion, couldn't help but stand up when she heard the powerful thumping sounds. She was very nervous. Even though she had a good mentality, suddenly meeting her boyfriend's grandfather and grandmother, her mentality was no different from being built with tofu dregs. It would crumble with a light touch. Don't be nervous. The old general is very kind. He's not that scary. Li Jinyan saw that she was so nervous that she stood up and couldn't help but accompany her. Just call him Grandpa Xiao when you see him. Okay. Yi Qian nodded stiffly. She wanted to force a smile, but she realized that her facial nerves seemed to have stopped working. They didn't listen to the central nervous system in her brain. She was so stiff that she couldn't squeeze out a smile. She had to be calm. She had to be calm. She couldn't embarrass herself. Dong dong dong. The thumping sounds came closer and closer. Yi Qian realized that she was so nervous that her hands had been clenched into fists. She opened her palms and saw that they were covered in sweat. She wiped the sides of her pants and took several deep breaths to adjust her state of mind. She didn't ask to be calm, but at least her face wasn't so stiff. When old Master Xia really walked over, even though he was dressed plainly and was even holding an old cattail leaf fan in his hand, the aura he exuded made Yi Jian stand at attention and salute him immediately, even though he was dressed plainly and held an old cattail leaf fan in his hand. Old General. It was Yi Qian's voice, crisp and clear, filled with military might. Zhou Zhang's reserved voice immediately attracted Master Xiao's attention when he walked in. He saw a young girl dressed in a military uniform. Her eyes were bright and clear, as if she had the light of the sun and the moon. Her back was straight, and her eyes were fixed on the side of the main hall. Her clear eyes made the old man, who had been in the military all his life, have a good impression of her. This girl is not bad. Xia Jinyuan could tell that his girlfriend, who came to the old mansion for the first time, was nervous. She was so nervous that she subconsciously saluted, and his handsome face was filled with a gentle smile. He had always wanted to bring her back to the old mansion to meet his grandparents, but he had never put it into action. It had been delayed time and time again until today. Instead of him bringing the little fox here, it was old Mr. and the Devil King who brought her here. She was brought here by the old man, not to pay a special visit, but to accompany the old man to visit his friends. She did not come to the old house as his girlfriend, but as the old man's granddaughter. Although the meaning was different, it was the same as his original intention. Letting his grandparents meet the little fox would make the old man feel more at ease. Master Xia was really relieved now. Master Xia, who had come to meet his good friend and his future granddaughter-in-law, laughed heartily. Little Yi, right? Ha ha. No need to be so polite. No need to be so polite. I'm not some old general anymore. You can just call me Grandpa like old Six. Grandpa is so affectionate. Old generals are not affectionate. I prefer you to call me Grandpa. Chapter 2809. Yi Qian, who had subconsciously saluted, blushed and hurriedly said, Hello, Grandpa Xia. Hey, that's right. That's right. Master Xia was overjoyed. The young lady in front of him, old Six had better taste than his father. She stood there with her back straight and her eyes clear and bright. She exuded the aura of a soldier. To be able to cultivate such a solemn aura at such a young age, one could see how upright she was. Not bad, not bad. She was a good child. Old Six had good taste. With just one look, Master Xia knew that Yi Qian was a good person. He was happy that his grandson had found such a good granddaughter-in-law. Li Jinyan said respectfully, Hello, Grandpa Xia. Good. You're all good. Little Jinyan, I haven't seen you in a few years. You seem to have grown taller again. She seemed to have grown taller again. Old Master Xia's teasing made Yi Jian's nervousness dissipate instantly. At the same time, she finally understood Lieutenant Colonel Xia's gaze, which made the corners of his eyes cramp. Lieutenant Colonel Xia then greeted the old man respectfully and modestly. Old Master Fu was quite satisfied with his future grandson-in-law. He smiled kindly and said, Looks like you've been training under the sun recently. You look much more tanned than the last time you were at home. He was indeed tanned. Not only Xia Jinyuan, but so was Li Jinyan. Yi Qian was also slightly tanned, but still slightly better than the other two. Xia Jinyuan was never timid. He kindly answered all of Old Master Fu's questions one by one. Old Master Fu saw that he was calm and collected and answered his questions well. He smiled and said to his old friend, You're quite lucky to have raised a good grandson. Ha. Your granddaughter is even more considerate. Your luck is here. I can only envy you. Master Xia laughed brightly and said, Come, let's go to the tea room and have a seat. Since I'm here today, I must play 2 rounds with you. Also, you have to eat dinner first. Don't treat me like an outsider when it's time for dinner and rush home. I came here today to nag you. I'm definitely going to eat tonight. Then it's settled. That's how it should be. The 2 elders chatted and laughed as they walked towards the tea room in the back garden. Xia Jinyuan gave Yi Qian countless looks, but he did not receive any response from Yi Qian. Instead, it was Li Jinyan who gave him a few looks. Seeing that the corners of Yi Qian's eyes were about to cramp, she decided to be merciful for once and reminded him, He's already looked at you a few times. If you don't look back at him, his eyes will pop out. Yi Qian did not dare to exchange glances with Xia Jinyuan. When he heard this, he did not even look at him out of the corner of his eye. He walked beside Li Jinyan in an orderly manner. He said, Let him look. Brother, don't pay attention to him. The old man did not let his children and grandchildren support him. He walked very slowly, but his steps were steady. He was talking and laughing. Just by listening to his voice, One could tell that he was very happy. When Li Jinyan heard this, he replied to Xia Jinyuan, "Don't look. Be careful of your eyes cramping. I can't help you even if I want to." Switch seats. Xia Jinyuan refused and asked Li Jinyan, who was walking in the middle, to switch seats with him. This way, he would be in the middle and could talk to both Yi Qian and Li Jinyan. This time, it was Li Jinyan who refused. He glanced at Xia Jinyuan coldly and said, "I'm not switching. Bear with it." He was in her own home, only one person away from her, but he could still talk to her. Chapter 28:10. Xia Jinyuan felt as if his heart was being scratched by a cat. Then, he raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled. "Yi Qian, what kind of tea would you like to drink? I'll brew it for you later." All she wanted now was to drink plain water and walk her own path without looking sideways. She only knew that her footsteps were still stiff, and with every step she took, there seemed to be a grinding sound coming from her joints. She didn't dare to speak to Captain Xia, not even a word more. His girlfriend didn't respond to him at all. She was right beside him, but he still needed his brother-in-law to convey his message. Captain Xia rubbed his temples in frustration. "Don't be nervous. Grandpa and Grandma are very kind. They've been wanting to see you for a long time. Grandpa was very happy when he heard that you came with Old Master. If she didn't speak to him, then he would speak to her, even if there was a brother-in-law between them." He didn't believe that his brother-in-law wouldn't step aside when he saw this. As it turned out, Li Jinyan wasn't an ordinary person either. He really didn't step aside and walked in the middle, leaving Xia Jinyuan to fret alone. Yi Qian, who didn't look sideways, only saw Old Master's back. As for what family Xia's old mansion looked like, she later said to Xia Jinyuan, "My mind is completely blank. I only know that the back garden is so far away." Xia Jinyuan laughed for a long time. "Don't feel burdened. Look at how calm Old Master is. He's not nervous at all. With him and me accompanying you, relax. When you see my grandma later, I'll take you around to familiarize you with the old mansion. You'll be familiar with it when you come back later." Old Master Xia kept walking in the middle. Captain Xia had no choice but to chat with his girlfriend and try to make her relax. "When you see my grandma later," Yi Qian, who hadn't looked at him all this time, finally reacted. She raised her eyes and quickly glanced at him. She felt her palms begin to sweat again. She was so nervous that she forgot that Captain Xia still had a grandma. She hadn't met Grandma Xia yet. "I'm going to invite my grandmother over now. You accompany the old man to the tea room. I'll be back soon." Finally, Yi Jian took a look at Xia Jinyuan. His eyes were so gentle that they almost overflowed with tears. He looked at Yi Jian like this. When he saw Yi Jian, he couldn't help but look at her again. Their gazes met at the back of Li Jinyan's head. Xia Jinyuan saw the nervousness in Yi Qian's eyes, while Yi Qian saw the gentleness in his eyes. He deliberately stayed half a step behind Li Jinyan and quickly pointed to himself. "I'm here." There was a smile in Yi Qian's dark eyes. He told her that he was here, so there was nothing to be nervous about. Yes, she had Captain Xia. Why would she need to be nervous? With him by her side, everything would be fine and smooth. Because of him, she did not need to be too nervous. She smiled at him. Her eyes curved like the crescent moon above the treetops, bright and elegant. Even Xia Jinyuan, whose eyes lit up, couldn't help but smile. When they went to the tea room in the back garden, Xia Jinyuan went to invite Old Madam over. Old Madam had already received the news. Now, with Auntie Fong supporting her, her steps were much bigger than usual. Auntie Fong anxiously reminded her, "Slow down. Be careful not to fall." "I can't slow down. When I think of my granddaughter-in-law coming over, my heart has already flown over. I know that I haven't seen her in a long time. Now that she's here, how can I slow down?" Old Madam didn't want to slow down at all. She was afraid that her granddaughter-in-law would leave if she slowed down. She smiled and said, "This child has an affinity with our family Xia. I used to know that she was an orphan, but she's down to earth and motivated. Those who have met her all say that she's a good child. I'm happy to hear that." Chapter 28:11. She was not just a little happy, but very happy. She even tidied herself up before coming out. Auntie Fong pursed her lips and smiled as she listened to Old Madam. Old Madam, who was walking very quickly, was still smiling as she said, but Sixth Brother said that she was the lost granddaughter of the Fu family. He even tested her DNA, and there was no mistake. Isn't she fated to be with our family, Xia? Sixth Brother has been waiting for her for a long time. Grandma, I like what you said. Your granddaughter-in-law is fated to be with our family, Xia. That's why I was lucky enough to find her. Xia Jinyuan's light voice came from the corridor, and he walked to Old Madam in a short while. My mother will be here later. Yi Qian can't reveal her identity for the time being. She can only go to the tea room in the back garden. Sai, look at how I handled this matter. The Old Madam frowned. Why did she call her ex-daughter-in-law out of the blue? Otherwise, the old man would be right. She would have helped someone else and wronged her own family. It's okay. There are things that need to be solved. Since she's here today, I can make it clear to her. Xia Jinyuan's voice was even fainter. The old mansion is not a place where she can come and go as she pleases. I have to make her understand. As he spoke, Madame Xiao had already walked into the old mansion. She stepped over the high threshold and walked into the mansion that she had lived in for a few years. She was no stranger to it. In fact, she was already unfamiliar with it. In the past, when she carried A Yuan, who could not walk, she could enter any place here at will, including the master's bedroom in the back. She had even carried A Yuan into Old Madam's and Old Master's bedroom. Behind it was a bedroom that had belonged to her. Family Xia's old mansion was very, very big. Before she left, her eldest brother, second sister-in-law, her, and Xia Xinhui, and her youngest uncle's family all lived in the old mansion. Her youngest aunt only left the old mansion after she got married. At that time, the family summer festival was really lively, because she and Xia Xian would have children very late. When Yuan was born, the children of big brother and second brother were already very old. Every time they came back from school, they would run to her side of the courtyard to compete to hold A Yuan. After carrying A Yuan, she immediately went to find Old Master and Old Madam. Actually, she couldn't carry Yuan for long, all day long. It was either the servants or Old Master and Old Madam. It was probably because her son was not close to her. She guessed that they had been together since he was still an infant. As a mother, she had only hugged her son a few times. How could she be considered a biological mother? Please take a seat here. The servant who welcomed her politely led the way and followed behind her step by step. Occasionally, she would remind her, as if she was afraid that she would go the wrong way. This way, please. Madame Xiao only felt bitterness in her heart. In the past, she was considered the owner of this place. Now, she was a guest and an unwelcome guest. 20 or 30 years have passed in a flash. This place is still the same. Zhuliang and Huadong, simple and magnificent. Shuman, look, the rockery over there is the same. It's still the same as before. Madame Li, who came in with her, looked around and said with emotion, the scenery hasn't changed, but the people have changed. The pomegranate tree. I still remember when you held A Yuan and asked a few servants to pick the top pomegranates on the tree and let me taste them. Madame Li was no stranger to family Xia's old mansion. She had come back and forth countless times, especially not long after Xiao Shuman got married. Xia Xinhui went to the army. She also lived here for a while. Now she came here as a guest, but Shuman, who had entertained her in the past, also became a guest. Chapter 28:12. Shuman's life was originally more comfortable than hers, but in the end, she couldn't resist a heart that wanted to pursue romance and freedom. She didn't expect that she would accidentally fly too far away, so far that she couldn't come back at all. Miss Xiao also looked at the pomegranate tree, but what flashed in her mind was the scene of Xia Jinyuan being hit on the shoulder by a ripe pomegranate while he was playing under the pomegranate tree when he was more than 1 year old. That year, she wanted to leave the child to the servants, but Xia Xinhui didn't agree. She entered a period of Cold War with him. She even thought that it was because of A Yuan's birth that she couldn't pursue the life she yearned for. She also didn't like her own son. Xiao Shuman, If you really think that my house is a cage for you, you can leave at any time. But I want to tell you, as long as you step out of this house, you won't be able to come back. Because Yuan was injured by the pomegranate, she went out with a few friends to collect scenery. Xiaxin Hui, who came back from the army, said harsh words to her for the first time. The more she felt unbalanced, the more she didn't want to stay in the family. Later, she made mistakes again and again until she couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't blame others. She could only blame herself for being too self-centered and making outrageous mistakes. Ms. Xiao was a talented woman, and talented women were more or less proud. Ms. Xiao was the only daughter in the family. When the Xiao family was rich, she lived abroad for many years and was very doted on. After returning to the country, because she studied abroad, she was proficient in several languages and often participated in academic conferences with Mr. Xiao. Her pride was not just a little bit. She was proud and arrogant, thinking that she could fly farther and higher. The world was big, and she could soar as she wished. In fact, Miss Xiao stood under the sun in a daze, looking at the pomegranate that had borne fruit again. Suddenly, she said very softly, "I regret it once in my life, and I regret it for half of my life. Regret it once, and I regret it for the rest of my life. Make a mistake once, and I regret it for the rest of my life." Her voice was very soft, but it made Mrs. Li, who was already a grandmother, twitch a few times. This was the first time she heard Xiao Shuman say that she regretted it. Such an arrogant person actually said that she regretted it. She said that she regretted it. Madame Li pursed her lips, and the darkness in her eyes disappeared. She was about to say something when Madame Xiao, who was standing there in a daze, turned around gracefully and smiled at her. "Let's go. The sun is too hot. I don't want you to get heat stroke. How can it be so easy to get a heat stroke? Let's go in first." There was a slight smile in Madame Li's eyes, as if she did not hear Madame Zhao's soft murmur just now. For the first time in his life, he regretted it for half of his life. So what if he regretted it? It was a fact that could not be changed, and there was no point in regretting it. That was why it was said that one should not be too greedy. If one was too greedy, they would be too greedy. If they were too greedy, they would only have themselves to blame. Don't even think about blaming others. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame himself for being young and ignorant. He was too blindly confident and thought that he was great. With a smile in her eyes, Madame Li raised her chin slightly and walked elegantly into the main hall with Madame Xiao, who looked like she was in her early 30s. Xiao Jinyuan did not let Madame Xiao wait for too long. He walked over and glanced at her coldly. When he saw that Madame Li was accompanying Madame Xiao, his cold eyes darkened. Yuan. Madame Xiao was very emotional. She was the polar opposite of the calm Xiao Jinyuan. When she saw her son come in, she immediately stood up from her chair and looked at her tall and strong son with tears in her eyes. "Madame Li, please take a seat. I need to talk to Madame Xiao alone." Chapter 28:13. Since Madame Li was here, Xiao Jinyuan would not drive her out, lest Madame Li would have something to gossip about family Xia again. He would not quarrel with Madame Xiao. There was no need for that. They could just talk it out. Besides, Madame Li, who had always been concerned about family Xia, was here. He would not let her laugh at him. Madame Li did not expect that she would be sent away, and her face turned cold. She said with a faint smile, Yuan, I am your mother's good friend, and her only good friend in the capital. I know everything about your mother. Do you still need to send me away? You know it's your business, but I don't want you to know it's my business. Xiao Jinyuan smiled faintly. His calm expression had the natural elegance of family Xia. Please sit back. Shu Man, your son is really good. Go ahead. I'll wait here. Call me if you need anything. If you have time, you should teach him well. It's not a good thing to be too arrogant. The meaning in her words was not ordinary. Call me if you need anything? Did she think that family Xia was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den? Xiao Jinyuan did not want to argue with her. He just glanced at her and left the hall. Chenglan, sit down. I'll talk to Yuan for a while. Madame Xiao did not answer her. She said gently and followed her son. Although her son was not close to her, She was still on his side. Behind her, Madame Li was so angry that she clenched the small bag in her hands. Her eyes were cold. She accompanied him in spite of the hot weather, but she was no match for a son who did not even recognize her. At this moment, Madame Xiao, who only had her son in her eyes, did not care about her friend's feelings. From the hall to the living room, she stopped Xia Jinyuan from pouring water for her and said softly, Yuan, sit down. I'm not thirsty. She was not thirsty, but etiquette dictated that she still had to serve tea to a guest. Xia Jinyuan poured a cup of the lemonade that old Madame Gu drank every day and placed it on the coffee table. When he sat down, his tall and broad figure suddenly seemed a little colder. Xia Jinyuan looked at Madame Xiao, who had maintained herself so well that not a single strand of her hair had turned white. He looked at her as if she was a stranger and said without a trace of warmth, Madame Xiao, I reminded you a long time ago not to disturb the peace of the two elders. You've worked hard all your life, and now you can finally do your own things in peace. We don't even dare to make you worry. So why do you like it? No, Yuan, I didn't want to disturb the peace of the two elders. Faced with her son's accusation, Mrs. Xiao smiled bitterly. Your father reminded me last time, and I remember it. Unless it was absolutely necessary, I wouldn't come to the old house to disturb the two of you. Unless absolutely necessary? What was it that she couldn't do? Xia Jinyuan chuckled softly and leaned lazily on the sofa. He smiled and said, You always need others to fulfill your wishes. It was like this in the past, and it is still like this now. You always need our family, Xia, to fulfill your wishes. But when will you fulfill our family, Xia? You didn't want to disturb them, but you didn't do it. That's true. My grandparents are not related to you at all. Given your personality of wanting to be happy, you naturally wouldn't feel at ease and would only want to feel comfortable. You were like this in the past. I really didn't expect that you would still be like this when you're almost 56 or 57. Chapter 28:14. He did not speak in a harsh tone, and there was even a faint smile in his voice. However, his words made Mrs. Zhao's eyes turn red. It was said that mother and son were united, but she was drifting further and further away from her son. She regretted it for the first time in her life. She regretted it for half of her life because of her willfulness. She said that she wanted to pursue freedom, pursue her dreams, and live a carefree life. She also thought that she would follow her heart for the rest of her life, without any restrictions or burdens. Wherever she went, home would be her home. She really thought so. Mrs. Xiao turned her body sideways and quietly raised her hand to wipe away her tears. Her figure was slender and fragile, revealing the loneliness of an old woman, but Xia Jinyuan was unmoved. Mrs. Xiao, you've lived for yourself for decades. You can continue to live for yourself, but please don't treat our family Xia as a part of your willful and reckless behavior. Family Xia has nothing to do with you, and you have nothing to do with our family Xia. Xia Jinyuan's tone was cold throughout the entire conversation, and there was no hint of anger in his voice. The more he spoke, the more upset Mrs. Xiao, who was crying, felt as if her heart was about to explode. She listened to her son's emotionless criticism in a daze. Even though she had mentally prepared herself before coming, when faced with it, she still felt sad. Retribution. This was retribution. Wiping away the tears in her eyes, Madame Xiao faced her son again. Looking at his maturing face, Madame Zhao's heart ached. Her son had grown up and matured. Why would he still need her concern? She did not care about him in the past, and he did not need her concern in the future. She originally thought that she was free, but in the end, she realized that she was actually trapped in a trap of her own making. I didn't want to disturb you, but I can't see your father, and I can't see you either, so I can only come and disturb you. I'm sorry to have troubled you again. Mrs. Xiao, who was not thirsty, clenched her teacup tightly, as if searching for the courage to continue speaking. You're right. I've always wanted others to fulfill my wishes, but I've never thought of fulfilling others' wishes. It was like this in the past, and it's still the same even at this age. I regret it too, but it's useless. Back then, I planted the bitter fruit, and I had to swallow it no matter how painful it was. Yuan, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If time could go back 12 years, Xiaojin Yuan might have been affected when he heard the apology. But now, there was no reaction. There was no reaction at all. Jun Yin smiled faintly at him. You don't have to apologize. I don't think you're wrong. You've chosen the path you like. On the other hand, we chose to let go and allow you to pursue yourself in peace. There are no grievances between us, so why do you need to apologize to me? There's no enmity between us, and we don't owe each other anything. You don't have to apologize. Our family, Xia, didn't take what you did to heart. You don't have to feel guilty. And I implore you not to come to the old mansion in the future. Old master and old madam are already old, and they're living one day at a time. As the younger generation, we just want the elderly to be able to live peacefully in their old age. We don't want the elderly to worry about us anymore, and we don't want them to worry about irrelevant people. So, I implore you not to come again. Just live like before. You can continue to live a free life, and we can continue to live as a family. We won't disturb each other. Chapter 28:15. An irrelevant person. In her son's eyes, she was an irrelevant person. Mrs. Xiao could no longer hold back her tears. She covered her face with both hands and cried, Yuan, I was wrong. Look, I don't even dare to call myself mother in front of you now. I know I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was wrong for not taking good care of you when you were young. I shouldn't have left you alone at the airport. I was wrong for treating you coldly when you came to look for me more than 10 years ago. Yuan, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Outside, Mrs. Li heard her crying. She sat down and drank tea to hide the faint smile in her eyes. Shu Man, they hurt you so much. Why do you still want to go back to them? What's lost is lost. It's not something you can get back just because you want to. Cry. Now you're crying with real grief. It's not the pitiful crying I used to see. She wanted to break free from the so-called shackles as much as she wanted to come back now. Yuan, your mother's health is not very good. Although you don't acknowledge her, please don't make her angry. If anything happens to your mother, I won't let you off. Mrs. Li wanted to go in, but she was guarded by someone. She slammed the teacup on the coffee table and said coldly, Don't bully your mother. I'm here to protect her. You'd better correct your attitude. Xiaojin Yuan did not reply to her, nor did he coax Mrs. Xiao. He calmly took out a tissue and handed it to her. He said coldly, Wipe your tears. If you go out with red eyes later, your good friend will really rush over and make trouble for me. He had just reached out to hand her the tissue when Mrs. Xiao moved so quickly that she grabbed his hand. Suddenly, Xiaojin Yuan's expression turned cold. He rudely shook her hand off as if he had touched something disgusting. He could not bear it all. You're too impulsive. I don't like your actions. He looked at her coldly, no longer as polite as before. Mrs. Xiao was shocked by the disgust in his eyes. Her son hated her so much. He hated her so much that it was as if she was dirty. Why was it like this, she asked softly. Her voice was broken. Xiaojin Yuan pressed his lips together and wiped his wrist with a tissue. Seeing this, he shook his head and looked at her coldly. I was trying to save you some face, but you insisted on tearing it apart. If you want to know the reason, I can tell you. You have to bear with it. Don't feign in front of my family. You, who haven't divorced my father yet, used me as an excuse to go on a date with your lover at a hotel. Xiaojin Yuan started the conversation and saw Madame Xiao, who had been crying her heart out, suddenly turn pale. Xiaojin Yuan didn't plan to end it so easily. His cold voice sounded a little cruel. I woke up, but you still slept with your lover until the quilt fell to the ground. This is your first time. The second time, I was in the wardrobe, and you and your lover were on the bed that my father occasionally came home to sleep on. Then, the blanket fell off. The third time, don't say anymore. Don't say anymore. Madame Xiao, who was trembling all over, tried to stop him. She was extremely flustered, and her heart kept falling into a bottomless abyss. She didn't dare to listen anymore. She didn't dare to listen anymore. Chapter 28:16. How could her son witness such an embarrassing scene? How could she let her son witness such a shameful scene? No wonder he found her disgusting. Even she found herself disgusting. I know. It's only right for you to find me disgusting. I feel disgusted and dirty for myself. Mrs. Xiao could no longer sit down and beg for her son's forgiveness. She couldn't open her mouth and was too ashamed to face him. You're right. I shouldn't have come. I don't have the face to see you. I won't come again. What face did she have left? What face did she have left? Mrs. Xiao couldn't stay for a second longer. She was so flustered that she staggered as she stood up. Her body swayed as if she would faint at any moment. Be careful. I'll get the servants to send you out. Xia Jinyuan didn't sit back and watch. He knew that his medicine was strong enough to expose Mrs. Zhao's most embarrassing side. Since she wanted to know the answer, he would tell her. No, I'll leave on my own. Mrs. Xiao, who was too ashamed to stay any longer, just wanted to leave as soon as possible. Recalling her willful behavior when she was young, she felt deeply humiliated. Even if the lover she cheated on later became her second husband, she didn't have the face to explain herself. The coldness in Xia Jinyuan's eyes had dissipated. He was really afraid that she would fall. Seeing that she hadn't finished the water on the coffee table, he reminded her, have some water. Mrs. Xiao got up too quickly and knocked her calf on the coffee table. She didn't react this time because she was afraid of pain. Hearing this, she grabbed the glass and drank the remaining half of the lemonade in one gulp. She drank it too quickly and too quickly. The water spilled out of her mouth and she put down the glass, coughing violently. It was too embarrassing. Such an ugly side was exposed by her own son. It was too embarrassing. Too embarrassing. In a panic, Mrs. Xiao put the glass back on the coffee table. She was too anxious and didn't notice that the glass in her hand wasn't placed on the coffee table. She loosened her grip, and the glass fell on the wooden floor with a bang. It didn't break, but made a terrifying rolling sound. The cup that had spun on the floor rolled off the coffee table and onto the floor. Xia Jinyuan looked coldly at the lady in front of him, who was no longer elegant and was in a sorry state. He took in her panic, shock, and discomfort, all of it. He did not pity Madame Xiao at all. He looked at her calmly and did not even reach out to touch her. He did despise her for being dirty. Madame Li, who was outside, heard the commotion and leaned towards the living room. It sounded like something had fallen to the ground. There wasn't any big movement inside. It didn't seem like someone had intentionally thrown something. Instead, it seemed like someone had accidentally knocked something over and made the sound. If it was an accident, then there was nothing nice about it. I'm sorry. Mrs. Xiao bent down to pick up the glass of lemonade and put it back with trembling hands. When she got up, even her neatly combed hair was messed up. There was no nobility, no elegance, and the ugliest side of her had been dug out. No matter how noble and elegant she was, she could not hide her filthy ugliness. Xia Jinyuan looked at her calmly and replied, It's okay. He was very polite and tolerant. Because he didn't care, he didn't make a fuss about it. Chapter 28:17. Madame Zhao's heart sank when she heard him say, It's okay. Her cold heart felt like it was being pricked by thousands of steel needles. She finally understood that no matter what she did, she would never hear her son call her mother. She had already walked to the door. She held the door frame with one hand and turned back again. Her eyes were filled with tears. She looked deeply at Xia Jinyuan again with her weather-beaten eyes. Seeing the calm indifference on his face, she closed her eyes gently. I'm sorry. My child, she never thought that he would see such a dirty and ugly side of her. She never thought that the absurdity of her youth would become her only way out. Why did she come to the mansion? Why did she come? If she didn't come, she could at least continue to deceive herself and stay in the capital. She might even be able to see her son from afar occasionally. Now that the last fig leaf was gone, she was so ugly and dirty in her son's heart. How could she still have the face to see him? But she came, she just had to come. Madame Zhao's heart ached. She suddenly remembered why she came to the mansion. She almost forgot. She almost forgot her business. Xia Jinyuan walked to the door and was about to open it to leave when she slowly turned around. He frowned slightly. Did she have something to say? "Are you on? Tell your father. Li Chuhai is back. You may not know Li Chuhai, but your father knows him, and so does old Master Li. Are you on? Tell your father and old Master Li. They should know." Madame Zhao's face was pale. She opened the door and walked out of the living room. Xiao Jinyuan narrowed his eyes and pursed his lips. She deliberately came over to tell him an unfamiliar name. Li Chuhai. His surname was also Li. He seemed to know more people with the surname Li recently. His brother-in-law's surname was also Li. Madame Li suddenly shouted from outside, "Shuman, Shuman!" Madame Xiao walked out and said, "Chenglan, let's go." Then, under Madame Li's gaze, her knees went weak. She fell to the ground weakly. If the servant who was about to send the guests out didn't catch her, she would have fallen to the ground. When Madame Li saw this, how could she sit still? He hurriedly came over to support Madame Xiao, who had gone limp all over, and shouted at the servant, "Hurry up and help her sit down on the chair. Is this how you treat your family, Xia? You'll scare the visitors until their legs go soft." Her voice was very loud. If it had been a commercial residence, upstairs or downstairs, everyone would have heard her voice. Fortunately, the family Xiao mansion had high walls, and there were no neighbors around. Even the scenic spots in the North Sea avoided the family Xiao mansion, making the old mansion the quietest mansion in the busy city. Mrs. Li wanted to make it known to everyone, but only the family Xia's servants and Xia Jinyuan could hear her. "I'm fine, Chenglan. I'm fine." Chapter 28:18. Mrs. Li, who was helping Mrs. Xiao sit down, did not see Xia Jinyuan coming out. After she finished speaking, Xia Jinyuan said calmly, "I don't want to do anything. Mrs. Li, you don't have to worry. Since Mrs. Xiao is unwell, you should go to the hospital." "Of course I have to go to the hospital. Hurry up and call 120. Xia Jinyuan, you're really something. You scared your mother to this extent. Do you really want her to die?" "I really learned something new. So this is how old Xia teaches you. Where's old master and old madam? I want the two elders to see how rude you are. How can you be so disrespectful to your elders?" Mrs. Li was so angry that she clutched her purse tightly. She almost pointed at Xia Jinyuan's nose and scolded him. Xia Jinyuan turned a deaf ear to her words. He knew that Mrs. Deputy Chief of Staff had her own thoughts. When family Xia caused trouble, she would be happy. How could an outsider get what he wanted? This was family Xia, not her due family. Xia Jinyuan dialed 120 and told the operator Mrs. Zhao's current situation. He also told the operator the address. After the operator confirmed that it was correct, he hung up the phone. He then ordered the servant, "Go and get me a glass of water." "Yes, sir." The servant retreated politely without saying anything else. The rules of family Xiao were not something that outsiders could criticize. Even Mrs. Li, whose ancestors were warlords, did not have the right to do so. His indifference made Mrs. Li tremble with anger. Seeing Xia Jinyuan suddenly walk away, Mrs. Li, who had never been treated like this by a junior, was completely furious. "Xia Jinyuan, stop right there." She rushed over as if she was going to teach Xia Jinyuan a lesson. Madame Xiao, who was weak all over, saw that Madame Li was about to rush over. She was as soft as noodles and wanted to raise her hand to stop her. However, Madame Li had already rushed a few steps away. She scolded sternly, "Xia Jinyuan, take a good look at what your mother has become. Do you still have a heart? Do old master and old madam just let you do whatever you want?" "Chenglan, stop it, stop it. Let's go, let's go." Mrs. Xiao, who was struggling to get up, was shocked and anxious when she saw that Mrs. Li insisted on letting old master and old madam come out to judge, but she could not muster the strength. She was so anxious that she was sweating profusely and her face was pale. She just wanted to leave quickly and did not want to stay any longer. How could she still have the face to ask the two elders to come out? Xia Jinyuan looked at Madame Li coldly. Her anger made him curl his lips slightly. He said with a faint smile, "Rules? Manners? Madame Li, look at how well educated you are now. Do you have any manners?" I don't respect my elders? Are there any elders here that I need to respect? Just because he didn't care about it didn't mean that he would be scolded by others. He was not a coward, nor was he a pushover. Mrs. Lee thought that she was very important when she came to the family home to behave atrociously. Mrs. Lee snorted coldly. No elders that you need to respect? Xia Jinyuan, you better watch it carefully. Regardless of seniority, I am older than your mother and in the same generation as your father. You have to be polite to us. I am polite, but you are not polite at all. You came to the family home to criticize us. If I continue to be polite, I will be a coward. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lee, but Xia Jinyuan, am not someone you can casually scold. Go back and scold your second son and second daughter. Mrs. Lee's body immediately stiffened, and the expression on her face changed again and again. Suddenly, it was colorful and very beautiful. Mrs. Xiao, who had fallen to the ground at some point, did not even have the courage to raise her head. She only had the courage to respectfully say, "Hello, old madam." After that, she did not dare to speak again. The old madam had already asked people to keep an eye on the situation outside and told them to inform her immediately if anything happened. When she heard that the front was in a mess, she could not sit still, so Annie Fong accompanied her. Chapter 28:20. When Madame Dowager arrived, she happened to hear Madame Lee scolding her favorite grandson like an elder. Even though Madame Dowager was kind-hearted, she was still displeased. An outsider had no right to scold the child of the old family Xia. Xia Jinyuan saw that Madame Dowager was alarmed, and his handsome face darkened. He hurried over to greet her. "Grandma, why are you here? I've already told you that I'll deal with it. You're done with your mother, and now there's another matter. If I don't step in, you'll be slapped in the face in your own home. I won't let anyone hit me." "You'd better," Xia Jinyuan still wanted to persuade her, but Madame Dowager looked at him with a smile. Xia Jinyuan knew that he couldn't persuade her. Madame Dowager walked in without looking sideways. When she reached Madame Xiao, who was still sitting on the floor, she ordered Auntie Fong, "It's cold on the floor. Help her up." Auntie Fong nodded gently and helped Madame Dowager sit down before bending over to help Madame Xiao up. Madame Lee was proud and arrogant. Although she was afraid of Madame Dowager, she was so angry that her chest hurt that she couldn't care less. She glared at Madame Dowager and said, "Madame Dowager, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll make a scene and let everyone know what the family Xia rules are. Wantonly insulting guests and showing no respect to elders. Are these the rules of the Xia family? Pimp? Procuress? Preposterous." Li Chenglan had lived for more than 60 years, and this was the first time she had suffered such humiliation. Madame Dowager sat in the armchair in the main hall, while Annie Fong stood beside her and gently fanned herself with an old cattail leaf fan. Madame Dowager, who was born in a prestigious family, had the elegance of the older generation, so no one dared to act rashly. "Explanation? What kind of explanation do you want me to give you?" The old madam laughed. Her weathered eyes were gentle and calm as she stared at Madame Lee, who was glaring angrily at her. Her aged voice was neither slow nor slow as she said, "Madam, you've come to the Xia family to cause a ruckus, and you still want us to give you an explanation? How about this? Why don't you first tell us why we need to give you an explanation? Listen to it first, and then I'll see if I really have to give you an explanation." Madame Lee looked at the old madam, who was sitting high up in the main hall with her eyes slightly lowered. The anger in her heart could not be extinguished. "Old madam, do you mean that I'm being unreasonable? There is a cause before there is a consequence. Who is being unreasonable and who is being reasonable? You have to look at what the cause is first. You tell me, I'll listen. Tell me in detail, don't just pick the light ones and leave out the most important ones." Madame Dowager's voice suddenly turned cold when she finished speaking. Her awe-inspiring majesty hit Madame Lee in the face. Madame Lee was so shocked that her heart trembled, and even her full confidence dissipated. Why did she feel that the old madam's words had a hidden meaning? Don't just pick the light ones and miss out on the most important ones. What is light? What is weight? Thinking of this, the anger in Madame Lee's heart dissipated a lot. She calmly pondered what the old madam's words meant. After calming down, Madame Lee realized that she had made a big mistake in the beginning. No matter how strong she was outside, in front of the older generation, she had to lower her chin. However, she had been angered by Xia Jinyuan and directly glared at the old madam. Wrong, wrong, she was wrong. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.